Exergen.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
At CDW, we get modern servers need to be
flexible, scalable, and predictable. I predicted you'd say that.
Okay, what would I say next?
Probably something about server security.
Impressive and freaky. CDW can implement secure Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Gen 10 servers that improve speed and performance while reducing
costs. See, predictable.
IT orchestration by CDW. People who get it.
I predict a web address.
CDW.com/HPE.
I'm in your mind, man.
Come rain or shine, high winds or mild breezes, blue skies or gray, it's a great time to consider getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. We're live. We're local.
What are you going to miss? He struck him up.
We're Dayton's ESPN radio station. Now, let's send it to the WING studios for Dayton's only local sports talk show. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
All right, happy Tuesday. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Mine is Kev Nash, at least for the rest of the entire year. That's right, you won't see Kev Nash back until next year. How about that? But yes, that's that corny end-of-the-year joke that, it stopped being funny forever ago. Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone's had a great day again. We're just a couple days away from Christmas now. I'm sure if you're like me, you're out getting your final last-second Christmas shopping done. Or actually, I lied. If you're anything like me, you are telling yourself you still have 2 more days before you have to actually go out and get everything lined up. So, but nonetheless, if you're out and about doing Christmas shopping or running errands or at work or sitting at home, however you may be taking the show in, just know I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys who hang out with us each and every day. The Justin Kinner Show, of course, with Kev Nash, brought to you by Orion Sports Medicine, Tim's Bar and Grill on Brown Street, and of course, Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. If you're looking to buy or sell your home, give Brad a call today, 937-572-7425. Brad has actually helped my fiance and I purchase our first home, and I'm spending the entire week after Christmas getting prepared to get all of our stuff moved into our new home. So like I said, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, I highly suggest Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. He's done a fantastic job in getting us our first home and has made this a real enjoyable experience, and I promise you he will do the same for you. Speaking of an enjoyable experience, I'm pretty sure that I may not be speaking for everybody, but I know a lot of you fans out there, and I know what fans, I'm sure you know what fans I'm talking about. An enjoyable experience last night, I'm sure. Bengals fans really enjoyed what happened last night, and it is what it is. Let me say this. I take too many shots at that team for me to sit here and not say congratulations for being at this point of the season and in first place in the AFC North. Cincinnati, I think I predicted to win about 5 or 6 games coming into the season. They're sitting at 8 wins. They're sitting atop the AFC North. And the only thing I will say to you Bengals fans is, let's be clear here. They're better than even you thought. Okay. Like, and the reason I know this is because when they do stub their toe, like when they lost to the Bears and they lost to the Jets and they got their doors beat down by the Browns, like, well, we're young, we weren't expected to do much this year anyway. So we're just happy that we're winning games early on. But now that you're sitting at 8-6 or whatever, you guys are like, I knew it. I knew we were going to be good. Relax. I'm telling you, you're good. I don't think you're as good as you think you are. I think your team has benefited from a lot of injuries and COVID-related issues with other teams, and the fact that the Steelers have one of their worst teams in decades, that's not a backhanded compliment. If that offends you, I'm sorry. That's just the reality of it. I said the same thing about the Browns last year. I wasn't really completely sold on the Browns last year, despite making the playoffs, despite getting a win in the playoffs. Cincinnati was god-awful. Baltimore, I thought was good, but not great. And Pittsburgh, again, another example of one of the worst Pittsburgh teams in decades. So, even I was realistic enough to understand that Cleveland was, although competing in the AFC North, it wasn't the AFC North that I grew up watching, or most of you, right? Like, it's not like this, the Baltimore Ravens are good. They still have a lot of deficiencies, even with Lamar Jackson. The Browns were good, but they still, a lot of meat left on the bone as far as what they can, do to take that team to the next level. And then Cincinnati was rebuilding and bad last year. And then, of course, Pittsburgh. So as we sit here today, I need to say this. Browns fans, what the hell, man? And women? What happened? And let me start off by saying this. I don't know how the heck I'm supposed to feel about that game last night. That's one of those games where I wish Cleveland would have just got their doors beat down, just so by the end of the first quarter, maybe the first half, I could just be like, yeah, well, this is what happens when you have all of these guys out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really not that hard to figure out why it's so key and why it's so important, or not important, but like to be able to comprehend what exactly happened, because Cleveland is not a good football team right now, because Cleveland, that wasn't the Cleveland Browns last night. You had a third string quarterback. You had about 80% of your starters. I mean, look, it's not an excuse. People keep saying, oh, Kenner, you're just making excuses. No, there is a reason that Bengals fans, you guys celebrated when you found out that the Browns would be without 85% of the roster. So that's how I know that you actually understand what's going on. You're just choosing not to because it's easier to troll. So that's fine. I would do it to you. You're doing it. I'm not going to get mad at you for it. Just acknowledge that you're doing it and we can all move on peacefully. The other reason I know that the Browns fans also understood what was going on is because there's a reason that everyone was like, oh, F the NFL. The NFL's screwing us. These COVID rules are horrible, blah, 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 blah. And here we are. Like, so you were saying all of those things, acknowledging the fact that the Browns were going to be, behind, they were going to start out from behind. Like, it was going to be a tough game for them. The chances of them winning were slim to none to begin with. The fact that they had the lead at the 2-minute warning was a damn miracle in itself. But that's why I'm confused. Are we supposed to be upset about an outcome that we knew was going to happen? We just didn't know how it was going to happen. We knew that they could have got blown out. We knew that the Browns could have made it competitive and still lost, by a significant amount. I don't think anybody, including me yesterday, felt that the Browns truly had a shot yesterday. Not saying that because they lost. I'm saying that because it's just common sense, right? Like, any team that has 85% of their starters out due to COVID, like, why would I believe that team is going to win? Can you say you believe that they had a shot to win? Okay, fine. I think that in these isolated situations, when you have a gutted roster, I think you're going to get that inspired football sometimes. Like, sometimes the team will to rise to the occasion, right? You have a third string quarterback. You have all of these pieces out. You have guys getting opportunities that normally don't. So when you get that kind of perfect storm brewing a bit, it's not ideal. But sometimes you can capitalize on those opportunities in a one-time isolated situation. Like, I do believe if this same Cleveland roster moves forward into this Green Bay game this weekend, not just because Green Bay is better than the Raiders, but the Packers will smoke this team. You will not get that motivated, rise to the occasion type performance that I think that the Browns put on last night. You see that all the time. There's a reason that a lot of times when these teams are backs against the ropes and you don't expect them to compete, you get the Ravens almost beating the Packers, right? But I don't expect if that Ravens team has the same amount of guys out against the Bengals this week, I don't think that the Ravens have a chance against the Bengals. Like, if they, you have your backup quarterback, you have your entire secondary depleted, key guys on the O-line missing, no run game. They're not beating the Bengals on Sunday if it's that same exact roster. You got that you got that inspired performance from the Ravens against the Packers because it was like we all got to come together, we all got to step up and feed off of this. But I think reality kicks in after that. I think it's that sense of inspired play that one time, that first time you go out with a depleted roster like that. And then there's missing key guys, and then there's being without an entire roster. That's the Browns this past last night. It's the Ravens this past weekend. And yet you had the Ravens who nearly beat the Packers and the Browns who nearly beat the Raiders. That's not going to be the tone setter moving forward. I don't expect this Cleveland team, if they take that exact same roster into Green Bay on Christmas Day, I don't care what kind of Christmas miracles you are hoping and praying for. I don't care how many times you ask Santa Claus for a Cleveland Browns win. That roster will not even compete with the Green Bay Packers this coming up weekend. The Baltimore Ravens, despite competing with the Green Bay Packers, you got that one-time inspired performance where the whole team came together to try to rise up as one. You got that performance, couldn't capitalize and get the win, but you got that one performance. It's not going to happen again. Like, then reality kicks in. You remember, and I'm not bringing this Jets loss up to the Bengals on purpose, but when Zach Wilson went out, I already forgot the name of the damn quarterback that came in and torched the Bengals offense. But you notice he never looked the same after that. You notice that the Jets have never looked the same since then. There's a reason. When key guys were missing for the Jets against the Bengals, you had fresh guys in fresh places trying to play inspired football to rise up to the occasion, and that's what happened. All right, that's why the Jets and that quarterback have never been relevant since then. Everyone thought that, oh man, maybe the Jets found a secret hidden gem in the back of their depth. No, that quarterback never did a damn thing the rest of the way. Either of the Jets. The only thing the Jets have accomplished is securing another top draft pick in the upcoming NFL draft. That's it. So that was the Browns' one shot to play inspired, come from behind football, right? Like, you're not going to see that again. Not going to see that again as long as that's the same roster. Same thing with the Ravens. So the Bengals, until I see an updated Ravens roster heading into that matchup, I'm taking the Bengals by double digits against the Ravens coming up. And the Packers will have a double-digit lead by the end of the first quarter against the Cleveland Browns. So there you go, because they actually have a real quarterback, a quarterback that doesn't wear eyeliner. So there's that. I mean, yes, I'm a little salty about that Raiders game, to be quite honest with you. But the reason I bring this up, Browns fans, is because I need to ask, like, what did you expect to happen last night? Like, emotions were all over the place. The reaction on social media made me uncomfortable. That Sir Yacht, or whatever his name is, he's the one that was trying to break Buckeye news years ago, and he's a big Browns fan. That grown-ass adult man was crying, literally took a video of himself bawling in his car because he had never cried from a game before. And maybe you have cried from a result of a game before. Maybe they're happy tears because your team won a big game, won a championship, made the playoffs, won the division, whatever have you. Or maybe you've cried because your team has broken your heart. Look, I get angry. The only type of emotions I feel during games, I've never had the urge to cry by any means. I think that's kind of weird. I don't think there's a sporting event out there that can make me cry, but there's every sporting event out there that can make my blood boil to where I feel like I need to put my fist through a wall, right? I almost felt like that last night. I was at a good friend of mine's house, didn't want to put a hole in his wall, right? Like, let's just be real. Sports makes me angry. It doesn't make me want to cry. It's just weird to me. I can't believe that this grown man was on Twitter crying for the world to see. I don't know what he expected to get other than crapped on for it, and he did. We'll see what happens with him moving forward. But the bottom line is what did you expect all week building up to this? We don't have a shot. We're getting screwed. The NFL, they're not doing anything to help us. This is ridiculous. We're in the middle of a playoff push. We don't have a shot. And then you get to the game and you lose and you're pissed off. Like, what did you expect? You can't spend all week, because I think what it is like, Browns fans, you were afraid to go out on a limb and say that they were going to win last night. I know I was, and I have no problem admitting it. Why would you go out on a limb and say, hey, I think the Browns are going to win? Really? If the Browns would have won, how many of you would have pulled the "see, I told you so"? It would not have been me. I would have been cracking this mic, bragging about the Browns being in first place and saying, holy crap, I can't believe they were able to pull that off. That's my reaction, and I say that because that would have been a surprise. I would not have expected that. So to sit there and so if you didn't actually expect them to win, if you knew that they were going to lose this game, if you knew that they didn't have a shot to win this game, why is it that so many Browns fans are in tears today? Is it not that they lost, but how they lost? Is it the reality of, oh man, our playoff chances we're done or slim to none? I mean, there's still technically a mathematical shot, but let's be real. It doesn't sound like any of these guys are going to get off this COVID list in time to be able to compete against the Packers. And let's be honest as well, if you get everybody back off that list, the chances against the Packers in Green Bay on Christmas Day against Aaron Rodgers, who's having an even better season than last year, most likely going on to win another MVP, I don't give him a shot completely healthy then either. So I think their playoff chances are done. I've talked about the significance of that Steelers game coming up in a few weeks. That will be Big Ben's final home game. I'm not saying the Browns have no chance to beat Pittsburgh, but I'm just saying, like, there's just a lot of roadblocks along the way. And if the Cincinnati Bengals, they have a chance to clinch the division and host a playoff game, that Week 17 matchup, it goes from just a rivalry game to the stakes are even raised even higher. So they got their work cut out for them, but they needed that game last night. And it just stinks that out of all the weeks to have that COVID outbreak, that it's now. Is it the fact that it's now that loss happened? You know, how come when they lost to Baltimore a few weeks ago when they were completely healthy, or not completely healthy, but healthy for the Browns in 2021? Well, how come I didn't sense anyone as upset then? I mean, they lost a close game against Justin Tucker and the Ravens. People were pissed. They weren't defeated. I sense the Browns fan base is straight up defeated. You guys, I don't understand you Browns fans. You are holding this beat up practice squad roster to a higher standard than the starters. When the starters lose a game, it's no big deal. But when this roster's the one, this is where you fans decide to throw your temper tantrum. Browns fans, this is where you decide to cry. I don't get you guys, man. Come on. Being in last place, this isn't new to us. We're used to being in the basement. I mean, when we tell teams like the Bengals to act like you've been there before, I got to tell you guys some of the same things. Browns fans, act like you've been there before. Being in last place, that's not new territory to Browns fans. Act like you've been there before, because you have. Not even 3 years ago, you were there. So I don't get what happened last night. And I'm not talking about the result. The result is the result. Sure, the Browns were more competitive, but you guys are making me sick. You're making me nauseous, because I've been spending all season telling the Bengals every time they lose a close game that it's a loser mentality to, well, we almost beat the Packers. Well, we almost beat the 49ers. You know, like, I don't want to hear that you almost won. It's a results-based business, and you didn't win. It's as simple as that. I don't feel inspired by the Browns because they almost beat the Raiders. At the end of the day, it wasn't a success story last night. It wasn't a feel-good story that the Browns had a chance to win. It was a failure story. The Browns failed to win. That ticks me off. The reason is because had the Browns got blown out, I'd be like, okay, fine, that's what they're supposed to do. But what you can't do is play inspired football, play good football, or solid enough football to win. What you can't do at any point is you can't be good enough to have the lead at the 2-minute warning, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, our roster's not good enough to close it out. You can't get one damn first down, Cleveland? You can't get a first down? Really? You get a first. I mean, really, these are coming down to some big. I'm ticked off at the Browns because at first I was like, you know what? I don't have expectations for them to win this game. But just like everything in life, things change. Heading into that fourth quarter, when they took that lead and they got that interception with about 2.5 minutes left, you took 90 seconds off the clock with that 3 and out. You couldn't get one first down? Not one? Like, you got to be a little aggressive. We've been that's been the theme of the last couple of weeks of this NFL season, between Zach Taylor, between Harbaugh, between Staley with the Chargers, and Kevin Stefanski, even though he wasn't the coach last night. I just don't understand. I just don't understand. What I'm not going to allow Browns fans to do is to sit here and do we played so great. We all came together and it was such a feel-good. No, you lost together. You came together and lost together. You cannot come together and be good enough to have the lead until the 2-minute warning and then lose it after getting an interception and having the ball with 2 minutes left, and you still couldn't close it out. This is, I don't feel bad. I'm mad at Cleveland. I'm just as mad at this practice squad roster as I would be the starters, because at the same time, the results really kind of are similar. You know, it was the practice squad roster, but the result was pretty much the same as when the starters are out there. Good enough to have the lead, good enough to be winning, not good enough to close it out. Good enough to have the lead on the Chiefs in the second half, not good enough to close it out. Good enough to have a huge lead against the Chargers, one of the top teams in the NFL, not good enough to close it out. And good enough to cut it within one possession in the fourth quarter against one of the top teams in the NFL, the Cardinals, not good enough to close it out. Good enough to hold the Baltimore Ravens to 16 points, not good enough to get, score 17 points and get a win. Good enough to hold Pittsburgh Steelers to 15 points. Not good enough to close. The Browns last night, they didn't look that much different for having all their practice squad guys out there. It's frustrating. I'm frustrated. Browns fans are frustrated. But what you're not allowed to do is, after spending all week saying, oh, well, they have no shot, to, I'm so devastated that we didn't win that game. That's weird to me. Grown men crying on social media. I'm upset with the Browns because last night you had a lead with 2 minutes to go, and you can't close that out. You can't say, well, of course we couldn't close it out. We didn't have our starter. So you mean to tell me that you're good enough to have the lead with 2 minutes left, but you're not good enough with under 2 minutes to go? That doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, minus Kev Nash today here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. So head to Facebook, search the Justin Kinner Show, jump in the conversation at the bottom. Forrest on Facebook says, even though it was a loss, that was a good Browns game, man. Yeah, I get that. I wasn't expecting that kind of a competitive game. The fact that a practice squad roster was able to generate that kind of anger out of me for the result. But at the same time, like I said, if they would have got blown out, I really wish they would have just got blown out, as crazy as that sounds, because that would be understandable. But what's not understandable is I kind of lose that logic when you have a depleted roster. You're not very good. You have a lead, though, with 2 minutes to go. Like, you cannot convince me that you're good enough to have a lead with 2 minutes to go, but oh man, now it caught up with you. It doesn't work that way. Like it just doesn't. Theo Mims says, I'm so disappointed with the Browns. Bad coaching all around. Yeah, I mean, I know that, a makeshift coaching staff, that even when Stefanski's there seems to be a disconnect between the players on the field and the schemes and the play calling on defense and offense. But at the end of the day, the defense did play very good football. I mean, you lost. You held a team to under 20 points. I mean, 16-14. You lost 16-14. I've always said on a bad day, you score 16 to 17 points. And the Browns have had too many games this year where they can't even put up more than 15. I mean, 16-14, the Browns lose. You miss a field goal in the first half. It's those things that why you lose. I mean, let's go back and look. So the Browns put 14 points up on the Vikings in week 3. Now they won. All right. The Browns put 17 points up against the Broncos. They won. They put 14 points up against the Cardinals and lost. All right. You go down the list. They put 10 points up against the Steelers and lost, but you held the Steelers to 15. You scored 7 against the Patriots. I mean, the Browns put 10 points up against the Ravens. Their defense only gave up 16. I mean, how many times is this defense, who I always beat up on, everyone says is a bad defense, but I'm like, you go down this list, you held the Broncos to 14 points. You held the Steelers to 15 points. Okay. Keep going down this. You held the Bengals, who has Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase. You held them to 16 points. You held the Ravens to 10, as I mentioned. You held the Lions to 10. You held the Ravens to 22 points, which is not a lot of points. You still should be able to beat them. Then they did. And then you held the Raiders to 16. This is an offensive issue. We spent so much time talking about the depleted secondary the majority of the season, Wood's scheme when it comes to this defense. The bottom line is even when the defense is playing poorly, they're still only giving up between 10 to 17 points a game. And you can't win? Oofa. That's a problem. That's a problem. 518-1410. We do have the phones up and rolling. The phones will only be operating, of course, through the pauses in the show. Of course, I'm a one-man show for the rest of the week, so just keep that in mind. But yes, the Cincinnati Bengals are officially number 1, 8-6. The Ravens 8-6, tied right there at the top. But technically, the Bengals have the tiebreaker, so they're the number 1 team in the AFC North, and they are the number 4 seed right now. And the playoffs started today. They're hosting a playoff game. So that's where we're at right now as we head into the final 3 games of the season. Bobby Sparks says that Bart Scott said before the season the Browns wouldn't make the playoffs, and people laughed at him. Half the Browns' wins last year were by 1 possession, law of averages. Bobby, be smarter, be better, do better. Okay. Yes, I'm criticizing the Browns' inability to put a lot of points up, but you got to understand, not an excuse, it's an explanation. When healthy, this is a completely different ball club. When healthy, this is a double-digit win team that makes the playoffs, that wins in the playoffs. So just cool it. I'm not being a homer here. I'm being critical of my team, also while acknowledging that what I'm being critical of, I know why it's happening. I know why the offense has sputtered this year. It's not that hard to figure out. I don't care what Bart Scott said. Bart Scott's been hating on the Browns since the beginning. But that's how this works, right? When an announcer or a host says something good about our team, man, they're credible. I'm sure Bengals fans love Bart Scott. I'm sure you guys love him. By the way, he's a good dude. I don't have anything against him personally. But, let's be clear. I know how this radio thing works, how this sports media thing works. When I tell you that your team is awesome and great, you think I'm awesome and great. When I tell you that your team is no good or not as good as you think, it's this guy, he's just a hater. Why? Because the only hosts out there that are good and quality to you are the ones that tell you what you want to hear, because you live in this soft world where you need everyone to tell you good things about everything around you so you feel good about yourself. No. Bart Scott, the fact that these national hosts, and by the way, you guys say this all the time, that the national hosts, they never pay attention to one individual team at a time. They half the time mispronounce half the players' names on the Bengals roster to begin with, and then they say how good the team is, yet they can't even pronounce half the guy's name on the roster because they don't pay attention. They just look at records and say, oh, they're playing pretty good. Oh, they're playing pretty bad. So national hosts are credible when they tell you your team's good. They're credible when they say that the team you hate is bad. But when they tell you your team's bad, all of a sudden they're not credible. You guys cracked me up. But no, it's not a law of averages. It's called it's injuries. It's that simple. It's that simple. The Bengals are not the best team in the AFC North. They're the healthiest team in the AFC North. It's as simple as that. I wasn't going to go there. I'm just responding. So some guy on Facebook says, I shut the game off after the early pass interference call. Saw the writing on the wall. Browns can blame themselves for missing the playoffs by not beating Pittsburgh earlier in the year. I agree. That close loss that they had a chance to win against Baltimore, that burned them. That Pittsburgh game burned them. Okay, a chance to beat the Chiefs all the way back in week 1 when the Chiefs were vulnerable. That's when they were the healthiest, by the way. In fact, the Browns only had OBJ out that game. That's the only significant piece that they had. So that that burned them. There's a lot of examples of games that the Browns have kind of lost before this. Last night may have been the nail in the coffin, but the Browns' mess-ups in games previous to this one were the reason that they're going to miss the playoffs. Matt on YouTube says, as a Browns fan, a lot of crazy Browns fans out there right now, that they want everyone fired and want a complete rebuild right now. It's crazy. They don't need a rebuild. I actually hope that they take this exact same roster into next year and just you got to count on them being healthy. I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, you look at all the top teams in the NFL right now. If you look at the Chiefs, if you look at every top team, if you look at the Chiefs, you look at the Chargers, okay, you look at the Packers, you look at all the top teams in the NFL. If you take out their top wide receivers, you take out the running backs, you take out big chunks of their offensive line, you constantly have guys on the defense out every single week, that you have a quarterback with a torn labrum and a broken shoulder. You have all of these things happen. You think that they're going to be as good? No. It's that simple. And it's not like we haven't seen this Browns team play at a high level before. This is pretty much the same roster as last year with added better pieces. They're just not healthy. Like, you guys are like acting like I'm making this up. Like, they're overrated. No, they're injured. It's that simple. But yes, I'm with you. A rebuild is ridiculous. David Shaw says, no, I don't think they are holding last night's team to the high standards. I believe they are holding the entire hopes and dreams of what this season was supposed to be. But it is what it is. Some guy says, dude, real Browns fans are used to this blank, and don't generalize us being crybabies like this, sir. Yacht you speak of. Dude's probably been a Browns fan as long as you. And by the way, some guy, you could shove it with that stuff. Like, I don't care. I don't try to pretend to be a lifelong Browns fan. I don't need to. I'm getting angry. Got to calm down. But some guy, why don't you actually use your real name on Facebook? Why don't you have the balls to put an actual profile picture on there that's you? Why do trolls like you have to always hide behind a fake profile name, behind a fake profile picture? You're a sad little person if you have to do that. Look, I'm a little guy. I'm 5'5", but I use my actual name. I use my actual profile picture. I make sure that people see who's talking smack to them. You have to hide behind a troll Facebook page. Do better. And if you think that I care what you think of me for how long I've been a Browns fan, I don't care if I've been a Browns fan since yesterday. Why does that matter to you? Why does that matter what my opinion is on the should that change what my opinion? No. My opinions are on who the team is this year and this year alone. It's that simple. Do better. Ann Anderson says, until COVID defeated, there will be no winners or losers in any sports. COVID will be the winner. Get vaccinated, people. Get boosted, people. Wear a mask. Keep your distance. And I agree with you, but at the same time, like, it's hard to push that message when the Cleveland Browns, they did get all vaccinated. They were following all the COVID protocols. They got all their booster shots, and they're still in this position. Look, everyone knows my stance on this. I got vaccinated. I don't care if you get vaccinated, super, but I'm not here. This isn't an after-school special. This isn't a PSA for me telling you, go get vaccinated. You do what you're comfortable with, because no matter what I say, I have a hard time believing that if Kinner says, folks, be a good human being, go get vaccinated. How many of you are going to say, man, Kinner, I don't believe in the vaccines. I think that they don't work, but Kinner said to get it, so I'm going to go get it. No. You know what? Like, I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. So go get it. But it is difficult right now. When you look at the Cleveland Browns, they did everything right, and they lost last night's game because their entire roster's out. They're all vaccinated. It stinks, and it's unfortunate. But you're right. The one thing I agree with you, Ann, as long as COVID's around, sports will be unpredictable, because at any given moment, the peak of the season, the playoff push, the Browns go out with COVID. And by the way, Bengals fans, you're riding on a high right now. More power to you. It could be you in a week. It could be you in 2 weeks. You play the Browns in that final week of the season. What if you catch it from Cleveland, right? Like, what if you catch it and then all of a sudden you're gearing up for your first home playoff game, and then boom, you catch it. It could happen. It can happen to the Chiefs. It could happen to anybody. So that's why I was so annoyed last week when everyone was mad at the league for bending the rules for the Browns. I'm like, you better hope they bend the rules for the Browns, because you might be the next team up that might need those same rules bended for you. So That's why I'll never understand when it comes to that. Like, why were so many people angry, when it comes to that stuff? So it is what it is. All right, 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. I want to hear from Browns fans, takeaways from last night. Why so angry about last night? It was a game that they had no chance of winning to begin with. If they would have got blown out, would you have been as upset? Or is it because they had the lead with 2 minutes to go and still could not find a way to get the job done? I am curious. 518-1410. We'll be back in just a moment.
Merry Christmas. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, right here on ESPN 1410 Wing AM.
If coming up with a perfect gift idea is making you feel a little like the Grinch, Roosters can put you in the giving spirit. For every $50 of gift cards purchased, you'll receive a $10 Roosters Holiday Buck to enjoy Roosters award-winning wings and so much more. Don't be a Grinch.
How dare you!
We all know it's better to give than receive, right? What could be better than giving and receiving? Go to roosterswings.com for more info or drop by any of our locations and purchase your gift cards today. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas from Roosters, a fun, casual joint.
Who brought the sauce?
I brought the sauce.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the sauce.
Who brought the sauce?
Spilled the sauce? Quick, the Quicker Picker-Upper. Bounty picks up spills and messes quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading Ordinary brand.
Who brought the sauce?
I brought the sauce.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the sauce.
Who brought the sauce? Okay.
Bounty, the Quicker Picker-Upper.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip-hop, or house, country, techno, or techno-country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Santa here. I used to shop online, but they don't have anything in stock. Now I go to the Hobby Shop, where I save money by getting fun and exciting gifts in stock from a locally owned small business that beats Amazon. The Hobby Shop near the Dayton Mall has the latest RC planes by E-Flight and the hottest radio control trucks from Axial. Want to go fast? The Hobby Shop has Arma RC cars in stock that go over 80 miles per hour. Keep your dollars local. Their shelves are stocked at the Hobby Shop, just north of the Dayton Mall, across the street from Lowe's. Call 436-6161.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Ready for an oil change? We can help get the right protection at the right price. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline Daily Protection or Valvoline Max Life High Mileage Motor Oil with an STP oil filter for just $28.99. Visit one of our 6,000 stores or order from AutoZone.com for same-day store pickup or next-day delivery.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
5G is here, but the big carriers want you to sign a pricey long-term contract to get in on the action. Well, no more, because Straight Talk Wireless has rolled out 5G coverage nationwide, with plans starting at just $35 a month with no contract. And get a Samsung Galaxy A32 5G for only $299, all on America's best networks. 5G coverage, 5G phones, less money. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required, actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Spruce up your home this season with appliance updates from Menards. With the largest in-stock appliance selection, finding the perfect appliance upgrades at the lowest prices is easy with help from Menards. Choose from our great assortment of America's favorite brands like Whirlpool, Amana, KitchenAid, Maytag, and Criterion for energy-saving upgrades. Stop into Menards and save big money on kitchen and laundry appliances. Plus, give the perfect gift with the Menards gift card today.
More seasons greetings to you all from Menards.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus, home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well, medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
What's all the buzz about nasal irrigation and navage? Here's the science. Airborne germs invade through your nose. When your nose gets clogged, it's less effective and germs multiply. Eventually, your immune system can get overwhelmed and you get sick. Navage pulls out the bad stuff so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier. At Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Or go to Navage.com for a free gift with purchase. Navage, Navage.
Fever is a potential sign of COVID or the flu, and the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate with more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Be accurate with Exergen. Exergen temporal scanners available at Walmart and other fine retailers. Learn more at Exergen.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
With the new law, more people qualify for financial assistance at healthcare.gov. Real customers like Taylor.
You know, I wish people knew how easy it was to get health coverage. This new law has made it so affordable. I'm only paying $52 a month, but there are quality plans for even less.
New law, lower prices, more people qualify. Enroll by January 15th at healthcare.gov.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Give the gift of a Dayton tradition. Milano's Pizza Subs and Taps. Milano's gift cards are the perfect way to give good times and those favorite subs and pizza to family and friends. Right now, for each $25 Milano's gift card you buy, you'll get $5 more free.
Audible is best-selling audiobooks, exclusive originals, and podcasts all in one app. This holiday season, treat yourself with 60% off your first 3 months. Just visit audible.com for more details.
He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer. And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots. He's Dayton's own Keith Byers. Hang out with him every Monday at noon on the Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio.
518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to jump in and join in on the conversation. We're also live on Facebook and YouTube. Yeah, like, it is what it is. At this point, Cleveland lost yesterday. I don't know what fans were expecting. I mean, sure, would I have celebrated a win last night? Absolutely. Was I upset that they lost last night? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we kind of all woke up yesterday when we found out that only Johnson was the only name that was going to be taken off that COVID list. That, it was going to be a tough battle. And by the way, the Raiders, I don't understand how you need 4 full quarters to beat a practice squad of the Cleveland Browns. But hey, there's a reason that game was as big for them as the Browns, and that puts them right back into the playoff picture. In fact, big Vegas Raiders fan, ESPN's Jason Fitz will join us coming up here about an hour from now. We'll chat with him regarding that game last night. But again, 518-1410, getting more reaction there live on Facebook. Look, at the end of the day, like I said, I don't know what you expected about last night. So let's say that's how crazy this AFC North battle has been. I mean, the Cleveland Browns, a win last night puts them at the number 4 seed in the AFC playoff picture. That would put them at the top of the AFC North. And a loss put them in last place and outside of the playoff picture. But that's how tight everything is. The Browns really only shot, and I'd say the Bengals only shot. And any AFC North team at this point, with the way the tiebreakers are set up, that winning the division is all the team's best chances. I did see Kansas City has like Hill and Travis Kelce and some main hitters that are potentially going to be out or they're questionable for this Sunday. I'm not sure if I haven't got the full report. I think it has to do with COVID. I thought someone in the chat section had mentioned that Kansas City is having an outbreak of their own right now. But I was joking that I'm like, we have spent so much time talking about, man, can Lamar Jackson throw a football? Is he, I know he can make plays with his legs. Baltimore, how good are they? How good is he? Is he going to get that extension? Browns, Bengals. Who's the best between those two teams? Man, I can't believe what's going on in Cincinnati. A year ahead of schedule. They finally look like they're figuring it out. Cleveland, I mean, my goodness, they're so overrated. Look, and then there's Pittsburgh. Just everyone's minding their bit. Everyone canceled out Pittsburgh to start the season. No one gave them a shot. Everyone ruled them out. Said, oh, no, there's no shot for Pittsburgh. And then you sit here today. Yes, I know Cleveland is in last place. Yes, I know that the Cincinnati Bengals are in first place. But Pittsburgh's just kind of sitting back quietly. They do have a tough schedule coming up technically, but at the same time, how good are the Ravens? Don't know. All right, Pittsburgh took care of business against the Ravens already once. I mean, who knows? Cleveland, what's their roster going to look like in a few weeks? Because not only is COVID now an issue, you lost Takk McKinley for the rest of the year, a groin pulled injury last night for, Myles Garrett. And then, of course, Jadeveon Clowney battling more injuries as well. So not every name on that list that's out is because of COVID. But all the premier pass rushers for the Browns could potentially be out for a while. So who knows what's going to happen with Pittsburgh moving forward. But Pittsburgh 7-6-1. Everyone's focusing on the Bengals could easily lose some games coming up. The Ravens can lose some games coming up. A Chiefs game that we thought was going to be pretty difficult for the Steelers. Now it looks like it could potentially be one of them winnable games for Pittsburgh. And I tweeted out just a little bit ago that the football gods are doing everything they can to make sure that they send Big Ben out with as nice of a farewell tour as possible, a nice little retirement farewell tour. I mean, my goodness, Pittsburgh, I mean, everyone talking about Harbaugh being the coach of the year, everyone talking about the job that, Bill Belichick has done, and they've all done great jobs. But Mike Tomlin's the only one that has a team right now that has no business even being in the playoff picture, and yet there they are. And they could very easily find themselves in a position where they win this division. That's what's crazy to me. Pittsburgh should not be where they're at right now, but there they are, 7-6-1, and they have to be kicking themselves. Like if Pittsburgh misses the playoffs, it's going to be that damn Lions game, man. And it's not just because of the tie. They could have tied a much better quality team, and although that tie I would still circle and say, man, that's a tough way to go out. But it's because it was the Lions. You know what I mean? Like if Pittsburgh misses the play, and by the way, Bengals, Browns fans, and Ravens, I know you're not going to, shed a tear for Pittsburgh by any means, but if Pittsburgh misses the playoff by a half a game or full game, and it's because of that tie with Detroit, I think that's more of a heartbreaking exit strategy from the playoff than the Browns having injuries since week 2, right? Like I just think at the end of the day, that's kind of where we're at with Pittsburgh. But if it wasn't for that tie, we would have 8-6. I mean, do you realize that? Man, that is interesting. If Cleveland would have beat the Raiders last night and we're 8-6, and the Bengals are 8-6, and the Ravens are 8-6, do you realize that all Pittsburgh had to do was make a damn field goal in overtime, and the entire AFC North would have been 8-6? Can you imagine? That would have boded well for Cincinnati. I'll give Cincinnati this. Like some of their biggest wins at the beginning of the season came against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh, Baltimore at Baltimore. They did a lot of heavy lifting early on in the season that even when you started looking at, man, they lost 4 of their last 6, but yet because they did so much heavy lifting at the beginning of the season, they were able to kind of tread water a little bit. They were able to kind of fight their way through that storm of dropping, 4 of 6 games. And now they're able to get that big win this past weekend. They're sitting atop the AFC North. They have 3 winnable games coming up, all while being losable games at the same time. But Cincinnati's in good shape. I will say, look, I admit when I'm wrong. I don't think Cincinnati's great, but I said there was a 0% chance they make the playoffs this year. But no offense, Bengals fans, I don't think many of you thought they would be a playoff team either. A lot of you, when you were calling into the show, saying, I could see this team being an 8 or 9 win team. And I'm like, well, there's no way they could win 8 or 9. That would put them in playoff contention. I just didn't look at Cincinnati as being a playoff contender. But to be fair, I don't think a lot of you Bengals fans did either. I think you expected that second year of Joe Burrow taking that next step, and he has. I think that I don't think he has taken as big a step as what he could. He's still getting all the love around the league, and everyone's drooling over him. The one thing about him is that, yes, his numbers have not been popping off the page. That's the thing. He has 4 games of under 200 passing yards on the season. They're 4-0 in those games. But to have 4 games under 200 total passing yards and to still be the number 7 leading passer in the NFL right now just shows you how versatile he is. This is where I'll give him the first of all, he has quite a lot of things going for him over Baker Mayfield. I wish if Baker was healthy this year, I would have loved to have seen what Baker could have done to build off of last year. I don't know if I would necessarily go out on a limb and say he's definitely better than Joe Burrow, but I think that the gap would be tighter. But I think there's no doubt with Baker being injured this year, yes, Joe Burrow is better. Took me 2.5, 3 months into the season to finally get to that point, but I think I've known it for a while. I just didn't want to give you all the satisfaction of finally admitting it. But here's where this is what I do like about Joe Burrow is how versatile he is. He can win you games throwing under 200 yards. Like the Chiefs, I don't think can win a lot of damn games with Patrick Mahomes throwing under 200 yards. I think everybody will take the Chiefs offense over the Bengals, although when you look on paper, I mean, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, why would you? That offense is one of the best in the entire league, not just the AFC North or the AFC in general. But I don't think the Packers could, that the Chiefs could survive many games with Patrick Mahomes throwing under 200 passing yards. I don't think that the Green Bay Packers can survive many games with Aaron Rodgers throwing under 200 passing yards. And that's what makes Joe Burrow interesting is they're 4-0 this season when he has thrown under 200 passing yards. Like that's interesting to me. Baker, they win a lot of games with him throwing under 200 yards, but that's because they're winning in other ways. Bengals win in other ways, but he's also capable of putting up 350 yards and multiple touchdowns. And I think as the Bengals, their offense takes, strides and moves forward, you're going to start to see those 200-yard games disappear, and it's going to be 300 yards in every game, and it's going to be one of those things where they're winning more so because of him and then just with him. But yes, I'm giving him that praise. But at the same time, I think I am being fair in my criticism of that offense is not as good as it can be. As good as the offense is and you think it is, I still think there's a lot to be desired for. Like they're not playing up to their full potential offensively. You realize they're sitting at 8-6, still atop the division. If you go back and replay this schedule, I don't think there's a win that they have that I'm like, oh yeah, there's no way they would get that win. Like I always say every year, your team's going to win a game that they shouldn't and lose a game that they shouldn't. In the defense of the Bengals, I don't think there's a game that they've won this year that they shouldn't have won. I think they every win that they have, they should have won. Every loss that they have, I disagree with. Every loss that they have, there's a couple losses. I'm like, yeah, I don't think if you went back and replayed the schedule from the beginning of the season to now, they don't lose to the Bears and they don't lose to the Jets. You don't lose to the Bears, you don't lose to the Jets. You're now sitting at 10-4, and you have a multi-game lead in this division, and you're sitting atop the AFC as a whole, and not just the AFC North. So if you go back and replay the schedule, Bengals fans, you're 10-4. If you go back to that Packers game and McPherson, who has been lights out, by the way, like we talk so much about Justin Tucker in Baltimore. I'm definitely not saying McPherson's there yet. I criticize the picking the kicker when the Bengals did. I'm still semi-critical of it because I think you could have got a better offensive lineman with that pick and still had McPherson available the next round, but it is what it is. The point is that dude just won you game late in the season. That guy, you know what I mean? Like that guy is winning games for you. He cost you a game against the Packers, but whatever. But that's the thing. You beat the Jets, you beat the Bears like you're supposed to, and then that game that you should have won that you shouldn't, that would have been that Packers game. Like every win that the Bengals have, they should have that. Those are wins that I don't think that they got lucky in. Every win they have, I don't believe was because of luck. They've went out and won those games. They've lost 2 that they should not have lost. They should not have lost to the Bears. They should not have lost to the Jets, as I said. But the one game that they lost that they should not have lost, honestly, and I'm curious, Bengals fans, your thoughts. The Packers or the Niners, which loss hurts more? I think it's the Packers, mainly because the fact, I get it, you both are home, but the Packers are a better team than the Niners. And you had them on the ropes. You had a chance to beat them on multiple occasions. So I think that Packers game is the one that stings. But, man, you should have beat the Niners too. So that Jets, Bears, you're 10-4. You beat the Packers in overtime. You're 11-3. You beat the Niners. You're 12-2. That's how close this team is. That's why it's frustrating. But at the same time, if you could find a way to win this division with those bad losses on your resume, put that by. it's all about who you are now. And I was not a big fan of who the Bengals were for a while, but like they could build off what they just did this past weekend, taking advantage of the depletion of some of the other teams like the Ravens and the Browns, and keep the Steelers at an arm's distance. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are the favorites to win this division right now. That, by the way, I know a lot of you suggested that, there's plenty of room on the band. I'm not a Bengals fan. I just can't do it. I'm not a Joe Burrow fan, but I respect his game. But I'm not a Joe Burrow fan. I don't think he's as good as you guys think he is. I think by the end of year 3, you're going to see a lot of inconsistency. I think he's been inconsistent this year, but you're so enamored with, oh man, he's better than Andy Dalton, so we got to run with it. Super, but I don't know how much better he's going to get from this year to next. He's really, really good this year. I think he'll be really, really good next year. I think it's up to the Bengals front office to finally do what they should have done a long time ago, is to invest in that OL. And then that's the thing for the Bengals, though. Once you put an offensive line in front of Joe Burrow, you're out of excuses. Like, you can make excuses for Joe Burrow this year. Like, okay, he leads the league in interceptions. Okay, that's fine. He also is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. I think some of those interceptions are coming from the fact that he is pressing because he's rushing a lot of throws, and he is only in his second year. But, man, you give him time to throw. I think those interceptions come down a bit. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about a different type of situation. But 518-1410, talked about the Browns lost last night, what this means for the Bengals moving forward. Kevin and I, we took a look at, of course, the 3 upcoming games for the Browns, Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers, and the race to the finish line. And the AFC North race is as fun as it's been in a long time. But let's go to the phones. We got Charlie. Charlie, how are you, my friend? Welcome.
Why do you keep saying that the Bengals need excuses?
What?
Why do you keep saying that there's no excuse for the Bengals? Like, why would there be an excuse for the Bengals to begin with?
What do you mean?
We're in first place. We don't need an excuse. We're winning the division right now.
Well, I mean, think of the NFC least over the years. There's always been a first-place team in the NFC least in years past. It didn't, just because they were in first in the NFC East, it didn't make them an elite team. I think that the Bengals are in first place in the AFC North. I don't think it's because they're great. I just think it's Big Ben. It's one of the worst Steelers teams in decades. You have the Ravens, who have been depleted from injury since preseason. The Browns, since week 2, have not been healthy. I mean, they've had about 80% of their starters out, and then COVID. So, look, I don't think that's hating. I think you even have to acknowledge that, yes, a lot of those factors have played into why your team is sitting at the top. If the Browns aren't decimated by injuries and the Ravens, aren't decimated by injuries, it's Ravens, Browns at the top, and then you're right there in third in the middle with this same record.
I don't feel sorry for teams that have injuries because we've been injured for 5 years and people just crapped on us.
You weren't injured. You were just bad. What injuries were keeping you from being good?
The Bengals had 18 players on IR 2 years ago.
Quantity over. I don't care about quantity. I care about quality.
And we beat the Browns the last game of 2019 with injuries, and we beat the Steelers last year with a third-string quarterback.
I know that's super, but what does that mean? Like, where's that? If I go to a Bengals game coming up, where can I find that banner? Are you guys going to hang a banner if we beat the Steelers last year? We beat the Browns in 2019.
What I'm trying to tell you is this year.
That's weird. Hey, man, Charlie, I thought we'd have a different tone today. I was just, I didn't say anything wrong about your team, and you're all defensive.
Okay, I'm telling you, we're not asking for excuses. We're in first place. So we've overachieved, if anything, because our expectations were not to win a lot of games because we're a young team with a young coach.
You're not young, actually. You're not as young as you think. You got a third-year head coach. Did you know that your team is actually older than the Steelers and the Browns and the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs?
Okay, how long is our team been together?
A weird thing. You guys need to. It's like you guys hear one fan say that and then you grab that and run with it. Pay attention.
The oldest player on our offense
the Browns are a younger team than the Bengals.
About?
So is the Ravens. All right. So
your stars are not younger than the Bengals stars.
What's that?
And by the way,
we're moving the narrative. Oh, you're moving the goalposts now. No, I'm telling you straight up, they are not as young as you think. They're not. And I don't care if Joe Burrow's a second-year quarterback. Like in today's NFL, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything in today's NFL.
It's hard to argue with you when you don't care about facts.
I'm giving you facts, Charlie. What the F are you talking about, my man? Like, I'm giving you facts. I have it right in front of me. In fact, let's talk about the order. The Kansas City Chiefs are actually the youngest team in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys come in at number 3. All right, the Dolphins are at number 5. And by the way, I don't want to hear about an offensive line because the Dolphins have won 6 straight with the bad offensive line, and Tua looks pretty damn good at this point. Let's keep going. Oh, yeah, the Cleveland Browns are the 10th youngest team in the NFL.
So why are you even bringing all this up?
11th youngest team in the NFL. So please spare me the youth excuse. That's
okay, but we're in first place, so we don't need an excuse. Is what I'm telling you.
Yes.
You're bringing up all those other teams.
For the Bengals, the Ravens have been injured all year. The Browns have been injured all year. Yeah.
So what?
Congratulations. Yeah.
Oh, well, who cares? So well.
I don't expect anyone to care, but you can't just act like that your team is dominating, that your team has willed their way to first place. Like, a lot has had to happen for you to get there, just like the Bearcats. A lot had to happen.
Yeah, we had to win a lot of games.
What?
We had to win a lot of games.
A lot of games. The Browns and Ravens have been depleted by injuries and COVID. You have one more win than the Browns. You have the same record as the depleted Ravens. Like, what do you mean? Your team's healthy.
We smashed the Ravens.
That's fine. You also lost to the Jets. So does that mean the Jets are better than you?
They're not better than us.
Okay. So, but you just said that just because based on a result of a game that makes you better than that team. I'm just saying.
Well, but you keep saying that they weren't. If Lamar wasn't out that game.
Okay. It's not about just Lamar. I mean, you talk about the lack of receivers he has. He doesn't have a run game. That offensive line, bunch of guys are out, and how many key pieces on the defense do the Ravens have out?
And you said the Bengals never do anything with all of our stars on offense. That's a lie. I don't even know what you're talking about.
The fact that you only have 8 wins with the $200 million defense, and you have T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon, I don't know how you could sit here and say that how you can criticize me for saying that. I think that there's more to be desired for. I think you are not doing enough with that. You should be doing more. Your quarterback should not have 4 games over 200 passing yards when you have all those weapons. That's all.
Okay, we have the 5th best scoring offense in the AFC. I don't know if you've been paying attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
5th best.
Mm-hmm.
10 overall. And you said that we don't do anything. Joe Burrow is the highest graded quarterback according to PFF. He has the most touchdowns over 30 yards.
By the way, that whole grading, that PFF
in the league.
thing, so does that mean Joe Burrow's better than Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and all that?
No, right now.
No, he's not.
Right
just because he got that number 1 grade on Pro Football Focus. So that means he's better than all them? Please.
He is right now.
No, he's not better than them right now. He has the Pro Football
That's your
Focus.
opinion. That is your opinion. That he is not better.
You
are not true.
On these airwaves. You are literally spewing out that Joe Burrow is better than Aaron Rodgers and better than Tom Brady and better than Patrick Mahomes. Really?
That's a fact.
Okay, you're right. That's your opinion. And
my first place team has quarterback in the NFL. That is a fact.
Okay. When the when the Giants and Redskins were sitting atop the NFC least the last couple of years, were you like, oh man, that's a good first place team? Just curious.
I don't know. I can't tell you anything about the Washington team or the Giants. I don't care. What I'm telling you is in 2021, the Cincinnati in the AFC North right now, and they will be at the end of the season, beat the Browns. And I don't have to hear about you guys beating us up the other day, because that's the only thing you got to hang your hat on. You got the one big win against the Bengals. Your offense is horrible. You've been horrible all year. You were bad
Charlie,
last night.
Why do you live in this world where you act like a team that had expectations because of their stars and their stars aren't on the field all year? Why do you keep holding that team?
Your best players play every week, Justin.
No, I have it right here in front of me. In fact, I had this prepared for today because I figured yahoos like you would try to spew that.
How many games does Nick
you
Chubb
don't pay
miss?
attention to any other team except yours.
How many games does Nick Chubb miss this year?
Nick Chubb, hold up. Let me go find out. He missed the Cardinals.
He missed
the Broncos.
2 games?
He's missed 2 games, yes. Uh-huh.
All right. So you should have only lost 2 games.
That would make sense, Charlie, if the offensive line had it so much. Like, Charlie, you sound weird right now. Like, seriously.
The
Browns and the Ravens are the 2 most injured teams in the entire NFL. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. They talked about that on Get Up and First Take this morning. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. And I don't care about quantity. I care about quality, and it's been all their stars.
Anybody can hand the ball off to Nick Chubb. He is your best player. He's behind the best offensive line. No,
you're right.
there.
That the offensive line is the best when they're healthy, and they're not healthy. Someone a little bit ago said, man, that the Bengals would be undefeated or great if they had the Browns offensive line. I said the Browns would be great if they had the Browns offensive line. They haven't had the Browns offensive line all year.
Yeah, it would be great if Riley Reef still played for us. That'd be great. Probably wouldn't have lost the Chargers. Probably wouldn't have lost the Niners.
But your quarterback, even with him, has been the most sacked quarterback in the league from the beginning of the season. So that's uncomfortable. Charlie, it's been real, man. In all seriousness, your team is in first. I wasn't trying to tear him down too much, but you start making weird arguments like Joe Burrow's better than Aaron Rodgers, and then you get me all off my rocker, man. So I can't. I got nothing for that, man. You have a good night.
Hey, facts are facts, man. It is what it is.
Whew. You driving around. I mean, my goodness, I don't understand how you could say that Joe Burrow is better than Aaron Rodgers. It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it is what it is. 518-1410. Let's go to Mark. Mark, how are you, sir?
Great, Justin. How you doing today, man?
Good. You know, you're a Bengals fan. It's going to take a lot. I know you called in a little. You called in real weird last time. That's fine because you had a little. You were having fun that day. More power to you. I'm a little jealous.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. Don't swear. That's all I need you to do is just do your best.
I won't. I promise that. Hey, I want to say this.
You called in drunk last week, which is more power to you. Okay.
And it won't happen again.
No, that's the thing, Charlotte or Mark. Whatever your name, Mark, call in drunk, and you still won't sound as foolish as that last caller.
I hope not. Hey, I just want to say this, and I think you'll agree with me. Going back to the wins and the losses as far as the Bengals would go this year, we are lucky, and Bengals fans should know this. We are lucky to be in the position we are in. Now, what I want to do is see that luck actually. I mean, can we hit aside these last 3 games? And maybe, be a heartbreaker for some team that doesn't think we belong there. That's what I want to see. That's what I really want to see this year.
I think the Bengals belong there. But what I'm getting annoyed with, and not by you, is it's okay to say, hey, man, they're in first place, but here's the problem, and then point at their deficiencies. I just think everyone's so enamored with, oh, my God, we're here. We weren't supposed to be here, that no one's paying attention to the things that are going to lead to their demise come playoff time. That's all. But no, they've done, even with dropping 4 of 6, here they are. They've been hanging around all season. They did a lot of the heavy lifting at the beginning. And that's why it's a complete body of work. This isn't like the college football playoff where there's a resume. It just comes down to win-losses. Sure, there was a big chunk of losses there in the middle, but they started out 5-2, and that's really saved them to get to this point of the season. But I've said already, they are the best in the AFC North right now and have the best chance to close this out moving forward. I don't think it's that crazy of me to say that because the Browns and Ravens are so banged up and injured, that's why the Bengals have a shot to close this out. I don't know why you're a Bengals fan. Why is it when you hear that your fan base has to get so offended by that?
That's why I don't get that either because, I guess I'm a realist. I look at all the games that we have lost. How many of them we could have actually won if we'd have made one play or if we'd have made the right play or the right decision for a play? There's so many ifs and buts and all this to go with it, but, it's going to take a little bit of luck, I believe. I think like I said, I like to be a heartbreaker. I like to go in and just, rip a Kansas City down, which I don't even know if we play them. I ain't really looked at that close. But just take a team like that out. That would be awesome. That's how I feel about it. That'd be awesome to see that because we're not really supposed to. I don't believe we're supposed to really be there. I was hoping to win 7 games this year.
And by the way, they have 8, and I'm sure you heard it earlier, but that Jets, Bears, the loss against the Jets and the Bears, those should not be in that L category. Those should be wins. Your team should be a 10-win team right now. They should be right up there with the Kansas City Chiefs at 10-4. And you can argue that if you beat the Packers like they were supposed to, they had they had the ball in Packer territory on more than one occasion. A missed field goal and an interception by Joe Burrow cost them that game. And then they should have beat the Niners, but the defense, after not giving up a touchdown the entire second half, let Garoppolo march down the field and score. You win both of those. Now you're talking about a 12-2 team and the best team in the entire league. They are that close to being looked at that way, but they're not right now. They're 8-6. That means they're underachieving when you have that many opportunities to win, but they're there. They're right there. They're so close.
True. I agree. By the way, I do believe the 49ers game hurts more than the Packers game, only because I lived through the 88 and watched Montana come down.
Because I was against that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But, yeah, hey, man, you know what? I want to see the Bengals and the Browns both. I like to see that game mean something at the end of the season. I guess they still can, see what happens. We still got 3 more weeks.
Yeah, 3 more weeks and a lot of division games. Still the Ravens and the Browns for the Bengals, obviously. The Browns still have the Steelers and the Bengals. The Chiefs, are a common opponent for the Bengals and the Steelers coming up. And the Browns, they have the Packers. So every team has a really tough game. The Browns have the Packers coming up on Saturday. The Bengals have the Chiefs around the corner with the Ravens and the Browns still to close out. Like, it's not going to be easy. I mean, we can't just sit here and say, oh, man, like the Bengals have this wrapped up. No, they don't.
No way.
So, but the Browns aren't out of it either. Like, people keep making such a big deal about, typical Browns in last place. I'm like, yeah, but the first place team has a 1-game advantage over the Browns. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. Not all last place is equal. So we'll see. I sound like a loser right now, saying, hey, we're last place, but we're good for last place. Like, that's a loser mentality on my part, I'll admit. So.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you guys for the holidays and everything too. All
right, man. Take care.
All right, have a good one. Thanks.
There's no way Charlie actually believes that Joe Burrow is better than Aaron Rodgers. My goodness. Shout out to Billy from Huber. He sent in this note, an update on the Cleveland Browns, and as they head into Week 16, have an updated list of the names that they could potentially get back for this coming up Saturday's Christmas Day matchup with the Green Bay Packers. I'll tell you who you could expect. Browns fans, I'm going to tell you who you could expect back coming up this weekend. Give us a call, 518-1410. We'll also chat with ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz coming up 18 minutes from now. He's a big Raiders fan, so I'm sure he's beyond jacked about last night's close game and a big win for the Raiders to get them back in the playoff picture as well. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
Attention Class A CDL drivers. Looking to be more than just a number? Yoel Transportation in Dayton is looking for drivers with at least 1.5 years experience. Yoel has open positions for no-tarp flatbed drivers and no-touch regional or local van drivers. Yoel is ELD compliant and offers 401k with match, medical, dental, vision, holiday pay, vacation, safety bonuses, and now has a rider policy. Call Rick or Joe at 937-294-5933 and ask about the $5,000 sign-on bonus today.
If you're looking to satisfy those comfort food cravings, we've got just what you're looking for. At Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, homestyle happens here with our 12-piece strips meal for only $32.99. Warm up with a big helping of homestyle. Enjoy 12 all-white meat golden brown breast strips, 3 large freshly prepared sides, and 6 fluffy biscuits. It's the family meal everyone will love. Get a homestyle meal made easy with our 12-piece strips meal for only $32.99. Only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
What can give you a competitive edge in today's red-hot housing market? Rocket can. That's because Rocket Mortgage can give you a verified approval. It could help your offer stand out. Rocket Technology provides a rock-solid verification of your income, assets, and credit, giving sellers greater confidence in you. Go to rocketmortgage.com or call us today at 8338-ROCKET.
A verified approval is based on an underwriter's analysis of your individual financial information, appraisal, and title report. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
I'm Dr. Baker, an ER physician. If you're having leg pain, swelling, or redness, but haven't talked to your doctor yet, don't wait. This could be deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot which could travel to your lungs and lead to a pulmonary embolism, which could cause chest pain or discomfort or difficulty breathing and be deadly. Your symptoms can mean something serious, so don't wait. Talk to a doctor right away, by phone, online, or in person.
Brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Panera believes in saying yes to things, like the new sausage and pepperoni flatbread, crafted with rich cheeses. Order on the app today. Panera, live your yes. Restrictions apply.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mainly clear and sunny, a high near 46. Tonight's going to be mostly cloudy, a low near 26. And tomorrow will be partly cloudy, a high near 36. I'm Pete Spivak, 1410 ESPN Radio.
Come rain or shine, high winds or mild breezes, blue skies or gray. It's a great time to consider getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Take home Frickers Holiday Feast. Frickin' yum, 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 yum. Our gift cards always please. Frickin' yum, 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 yum.
Take home 4 pounds of frickin' chicken chunks for only $29.99, carry out only. Buy a $25 Frickers gift card and you'll get 5 frickin' bonus bucks free. The ho, ho, ho! For fun, food, sports, and spirits, Frickers.
Frickin' yum, yum.
Family owned and operated for 3 generations. Collett Propane is proud to serve the greater Miami Valley. Let our family help protect your family from old man winter. Find out why 98% of our customers would recommend us to friends and family. Find us online at collettpropane.com or visit us in Xenia, Wilmington, or Lebanon. Collett Propane, proudly keeping the Miami Valley warm for over 65 years.
The countdown's on. Dash into JCPenney for your last chance to shop before Christmas Day. This week, save up to 30% on your favorite kitchen gifts from Cuisinart, Ninja, and Instant Pot. Deck out the family in champion gear up to 40% off and dazzle their holiday with Yes Please diamonds, just $25. Hurry in to wrap up your shopping with extra savings in the nick of time. Joy, comfort, peace. JCPenney. Offers valid on select items 12/20 through 12/24. Doorbusters and champion excluded from coupons. Other exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
You know when you order a new video game, or a golf club, or a blender, and then it arrives at your door, you get a little thrill. Imagine how much more thrilling it is when you order a new car. With Nissan at home, you can shop for the perfect ride and order it without ever having to go anywhere. Sure beats a golf club or a blender. Buy a new car entirely online with Nissan at home, delivered direct from dealer to driveway. Thrill starts here. Services may vary at participating dealers, subject to applicable law. See dealer for details.
Let's be real. Mopping is a hassle. You have to fill the bucket, pushing a wet, heavy mop around, then cleaning the mop when you're done so it doesn't grow bacteria. A hassle on top of a hassle. Try Swiffer WetJet. With Swiffer WetJet, you start with a fresh pad and cleaning solution every time. And when you're done, you just toss the pad. Swiffer WetJet, the faster, easier, cleaner way to clean your floors.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com. Timothy'sRoofing.com.
Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street are huge supporters of the Dayton Flyers. Whether you're one of the 13,000 fans cheering on the Flyers at UD Arena or one of the hundreds of fans packed inside Tim's on game day, there is only two places that you can feel the passion of the Flyer faithful more than anywhere else. Timothy's Bar and Grill is also a sponsor of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash in the afternoons and the Talking Out Loud Hour on Thursday nights with Sully. Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. Go Flyers.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Looking to buy or sell your home? Give Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty a call today, 937-572-7425. The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty, Tim's Bar and Grill on Brown Street, and Orion Sports Medicine. We welcome you back. Just me here today and for the remainder of the year, I should say. Kev Nash out, using his final time off, of course, to enjoy the rest of the year. He suggested I do the same, but no, I'm obsessed with arguing with you people on a daily basis. So, I think that one of these days I'll convince you your team's not as good as you think, and maybe one of these days you'll convince me that your team is as good as you think. I don't know. We've been doing this same song and dance for 3 years now. You're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change yours, but man, we are going to fight like hell and try to do it, right? But it is what it is at this point. Ann Anderson on Facebook, by the way, she goes, I have the best of all the worlds. She grew up in Dover, Ohio as a Browns fan, lived in Denver, became a Broncos fan. She says the best fans in the NFL. Uncle Sam moved us to Wright Pat to become a Bengals fan. My heart still rests in Denver for many reasons, but I always pull for our local teams. See, there we go. Right down the middle. She's pulling for all the local teams. I'm supporting all the local teams, but like the takes you fans have, like I love that we're on Facebook and YouTube, by the way, but like then I get to see your opinions on stuff, and then I'm like, hold up, wait, what? Like I can't get behind the idea that Burrow's better than Aaron Rodgers, like that. We've had a Bengals fan call in today to try to push that. I can't get on board with that. Crazy. So it is what it is. Dayton Flyers on the hardwood tonight. They're back at it to wrap up the non-conference portion of the season. Dayton 7-5. They are a 16-point favorite at UD Arena as they welcome in Southern. Again, they're wrapping up the non-conference portion of the season for them before they head exclusively into A-10 play. So this is going to be a big one here coming up tonight. Mainly so, not so much about who they're playing, but just a chance to, they lost at Ole Miss over the weekend, get a win over Southern, 8-5 heading into A-10 play. And then, of course, that's really where the meat of everything is going to matter when it comes to prepping for March, whether it be trying to get an at-large bid or just trying to get themselves in position to get the highest seed as possible to be able to potentially end a multi-decade long drought between now and the last time they won an A-10 tournament. But that could potentially be their only route to the NCAA tournament after losses against UMass Lowell, Lipscomb, and again, Austin P earlier the year. But we've talked about the resume being so wonky. They have wins over Miami out of the ACC. They upset Kansas, the number 4 team in the country at the time. They beat Belmont to win that invitational that they were in Florida. Then they come back and they take care of business. They lost to SMU. They beat Virginia Tech, and then they lose to Ole Miss. But they had those big 3 non-conference matchups, the true road games or whatever, at Ole Miss, and then at SMU. They were able to take care of business against Virginia Tech at UD Arena, being able to get one there. I do think that their at-large chances are pretty slim. I think that had they been able to take care of business against SMU, maybe you could be forgiven for either the Ole Miss or the SMU loss, but you had to at least get 2 of those 3 outside of that invitational in Orlando. But I do think that by losing to SMU and Ole Miss, capped on with the fact that they lost to Lipscomb, Austin P, and UMass Lowell, I do believe that that's going to keep them from getting a true at-large opportunity. But again, that's what makes this A-10 run so interesting. I think that the A-10 is slightly down heading into the year. It's not as strong like when you look at, St. Bonnie and some of the teams that a lot of people were kind of high on coming in. They're not looking as sharp as what many had expected. So that doesn't help the Flyers' chances either. You kind of wanted it to be pretty heavy up top to give the Flyers a couple quality wins. I don't know if that's going to be the case. But right now, it's all about just positioning them for the A-10 tournament, which is still a few months away. On top of that, the Wright State Raiders, they look to cap off their non-conference portion of the season. They are on the road tonight at NC State. They are a 10-point underdog. I talked about the Dayton Flyers and their matchup, a 16-point favorite. The Wright State Raiders on the road against NC State. Wright State, they were a 10-point dog, now a 10.5-point dog. Wright State 3-7. They were able to get a win this past weekend. They have not looked good throughout the non-conference portion of the season. It has not looked good at all. But they have a good chance here against a Power 5 out of the ACC, NC State, to get a win on the road to kind of set the tone heading into conference play. So that's going to be key. But you look at NC State, they have – they lost to Oklahoma State, but they beat Texas Southern 65-57. They've hung around. They've let teams that are worse than Wright State this season hang around, and that's not a shot at Wright State. They're actually pretty good. Their win-loss record's not indicating that. Their performance on the floor hasn't indicated that. But if you follow that team, you know that they're good. They have talent on that roster. They just haven't been able to put it together. I think they were able to put it together this past Sunday. So we'll see how all that pans out. But yes, like Louisiana Tech, 90-81, they just won, a bad Nebraska team. They won 104-100. So that's the thing. But they've also, Purdue punched Wright State by like 40 plus points. They took Purdue into overtime and lost. They lost 82-72. But Richmond, they just lost to Richmond 83-74. So we'll see. But man, with Wright State, as ugly as this non-conference stretch has been, if they can cap it off with a win on the road against an ACC opponent, they were able to, their last Power 5 win 2 seasons ago when they were able to beat Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech right around this time. It was the final non-conference game right before Christmas, setting up conference play on the other side. So again, both local teams getting set to go heading into conference play. And of course, we'll be keeping more of a closer eye on both teams as football wraps up. Bowl season officially well underway. We do have the Rose Bowl coming up, Ohio State and Utah. That's not too far off in the distance as well. New Year's Day, a 5 o'clock kickoff. Coverage begins on 1410 ESPN Radio at 3:30 and on our sister station, 92.9 Jack FM. As far as Ohio State goes, Ohio State's been kind of shut down. They've missed some key games. They missed their game with Kentucky. They had a game tonight scheduled that was canceled as well. We're really seeing college basketball be decimated by the coronavirus right now with this variant that has hit. And I guess reports are coming out. The NBA is saying that this variant, the recent variant, that's been the most dominant one that has led to these outbreaks. We're seeing it in the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been shut down. Multiple games have been canceled. We all know how important Christmas Day is for the NBA. A lot of those teams that are playing that day have been told to be flexible, that their games could be moved to a different time, could potentially be canceled. Who knows what to expect? My frustration with all of this, if you're canceling because your roster has an outbreak on it, fine. But trying to prevent an outbreak by canceling games, I'm kind of concerned about that, because my thing is this. Like the NHL is shut down, I think from like the 22nd through the 26th or 27th, like they're shutting down for like a 5-day period. And my thinking is, what does that do? What is that doing? Stopping a league and stopping college football, stopping college basketball, I'm not really sure what that does. I don't know what that does in regards to the big picture. Pausing does what? Stop the spread? No. You're going to play, like we have to stop freaking out. And I don't mean ignore this, but at the same time, we have to stop in the world of sports. You either play during this pandemic or you stop until this pandemic has been totally eradicated. I have no clue what the right answer is, but I don't think the right answer is start, stop, fans one game, no fans the next, fans 1 month, no fans the next. Oh, look, it's slowing down. Let's bring fans back. Oh, crap, it's back. Fans, sit your ass at home. Like, stop. This is here. It's going nowhere. I hate talking about COVID because it usually leads to some uncomfortable conversations and politics getting involved. I don't care what your political side is when it comes to this, but it's kind of weird at this point. I've had a lot of close people to me and my fiance, family, close friends that have been impacted by this, that people have lost their life to this. I know the severity of it. I know how, deadly this thing can be, but I also know that it's also going nowhere. So we either need to shut everything down and sit in our house and hide, or learn how to play and live through this. And I think that we've gotten to that point where everyday life is going on, sports going on, high school sports, college sports, pro sports. But I don't like what I'm seeing, all these college games being canceled. I don't like the concept of these conferences who were too lazy to come up with the COVID protocol, that they just went ahead and said, you know what, if you miss a game because of COVID, you're forfeiting it. That's crap. That's lazy. And I think that a lot of these conferences need to revisit how they want to approach this. The fact that I don't think it wasn't Wright State men's team. Wright State women's team is already, I think they have quite a few losses already due to having to miss games due to COVID, and they're just chalked up as losses, as forfeits. And I thought that's crappy. I don't care. I don't care what level it is. I don't care if it's high school, men or women's sports. I don't care if it's the G League. I don't care if it's a YMCA league. Like, stop it with that. Stop forfeiting. Yeah, because they wanted to lose. They wanted to get COVID. That's what annoys me. We're pushing these vaccines. If you want to play, you got to get vaccinated. Okay, so these players get vaccinated, and then they get punished when an outbreak still occurs, even though they were told, hey, get vaccinated to limit the spread. These heavy spreads keep coming. Then they're being punished for it. Like, well, what the hell? If we're going to keep having these spreads, the virus is going to keep spreading amongst us anyways. Why the hell did we get that shot? Why are we going to get a booster? That's where this is going to get out of hand moving forward. And I don't understand. I don't know what's next. But let me think. I think it was Doug Toby. Let me find Doug's spot on here. Doug Toby says, I hate to be negative Nancy, but I am worried that COVID is going to hit the Bengals the last 2 weeks. I think that's a worry from everybody. You have the NCAA tournament coming up not too far off in the distance. You have the college football Final Four. A lot of people have spent a ton of money on those tickets. I don't think there's a chance in hell that they're going to try and cancel those games or make it non-fans or what have you. We saw college football march right through a pandemic season without a vaccine. You think with the vaccine that they're all of a sudden going to say, okay, no fans at these games? No, but there will be pressure to do so. You think these stadiums, the people in charge of because keep in mind, it's not like the powers that be of the college football playoff that they get to decide whether the game happens or not. It could be the powers that be that run those venues. I could say, hey, we have the game, but we're not going to allow fans in here. That's going to be a disaster if that happens. I don't think it will, but let's not act like it's not a chance. You got the Super Bowl not too far off in the distance. That could be impacted by this because this is getting worse each and every day as far as the numbers that are coming in. I also think it's kind of weird territory to say, well, hey, you know what? We're just not going to test anymore. We just won't test for the virus. That's not, by not testing, you're not really getting rid of the virus. But at the same time, when you test, too many positive tests are coming back, and then they have to react to it because the optics aren't good. Hey, we have an entire outbreak on our roster, but we're just going to keep playing. Well, the best way to play with an entire infected roster is, well, to not test, not make it public, and then nobody knows, nobody talks about it. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what the right or wrong answer is. I don't think the right answer is continuously stopping and canceling games, but I don't think the right answer is ignoring positive tests and acting like it doesn't exist. I don't think there is a right or wrong way to do this. That's for sure. 518-1410, ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz, a big Raiders fan. He's going to join us on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, right here on ESPN 1410 Wing AM.
Give the gift of a Dayton tradition. Milano's Pizza Subs and Taps. Milano's gift cards are the perfect way to give good times and those favorite subs and pizza to family and friends. Right now, for each $25 Milano's gift card you buy, you'll get $5 more free.
Polking Bowling Centers are your connection for family fun or a great night out with friends this holiday season. Everyone loves to bowl. Plan your family holiday get-together at Polking Bowling Centers. Bowling offers an exciting family experience. Remember, Polking Bowling Centers are safe, sanitized, and socially distanced. Let the good times roll at Polking Lanes in Dayton on Wilmington Avenue, Polking Woodman Lanes in Kettering on Woodman Drive, and Polking Lane South in Centerville on Kingsridge Drive. It's a memorable time for everyone, so come out and share the fun of bowling.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip hop,
or house? Country, techno, or techno country? But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
Freshen up your bathroom this season with help from Menards. Save big money on a new Delta shower. Menards carries a wide variety of Delta bath products to fit your lifestyle, like the High Crop Shower. Engineered for style, design, and durability, Delta High Crop Showers are mildew resistant and low maintenance. Stop into Menards and save big money on all your home improvement needs. Plus, give the perfect gift with the Menards gift card today.
Warm season's greetings to you all from Menards.
Attention Class A CDL drivers. Looking to be more than just a number? Yoel Transportation in Dayton is looking for drivers with at least 1.5 years experience. Yoel has open positions for no-tarp flatbed drivers and no-touch regional or local van drivers. Yoel is ELD compliant and offers 401k with match, medical, dental, vision, holiday pay, vacation, safety bonuses, and now has a rider policy. Call Rick or Joe at 937-294-5933 and ask about the $5,000 sign-on bonus today.
If coming up with a perfect gift idea is making you feel a little like the Grinch, Roosters can put you in the giving spirit. For every $50 of gift cards purchased, you'll receive a $10 Roosters holiday buck to enjoy Roosters award-winning wings and so much more. Don't be a Grinch.
How dare you!
We all know it's better to give than receive, right? What could be better than giving and receiving? Go to roosterswings.com for more info or drop by any of our locations and purchase your gift cards today. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas from Roosters, a fun casual joint.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you if you could simply take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. I buy all types of real estate completely as is. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, rental portfolios. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Call TurboTrack Realty today for an all-cash offer and speak with one of our friendly staff members at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
All right, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner with you here on a Tuesday, the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, minus Kev Nash. Kev will be back next year. Sounds dramatic, I know. Next year's not that far off in the distance, but that's that corny joke I use every single year, so it is what it is, but we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine, Tim's Bar and Grill on Brown Street, and of course, Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. If you're looking to buy or sell your home, give Brad a call today, 937-572-7425. Brad Mays, again, with Home Experts Realty. My fiance and I, he just helped us buy our first home. In fact, that's what I'll be doing the whole week after Christmas, is moving all of our stuff in. That's the fun part of moving, right? Not so much, but we cannot wait to get settled into our new home, and we have Brad to to think. And he was beyond helpful with us every step of the way, and he'll do the same thing for you. So one more time, give Brad Mays a call today with Home Experts Realty. Looking to buy or sell coming out of the holiday, 937-572-7425. All right, the Cleveland Browns, a win last night over the Raiders would have put them in first place in the AFC North. The win over the Raiders would have put them in the number 4 spot in the AFC in general. But they dropped to 7-7 on the season. The Raiders improved to 7-7 on the year with the same record as the Cleveland Browns. And the Bengals catapult. They are already technically catapulted into the first place spot in the AFC North. But they got to stay there because they were sitting on the edge of their seats the way we Browns fans were and the Raiders fans were, because the Bengals were like, man, if the Browns win this, they're in first place. But now the Browns are in the basement. And I know one guy outside of Bengals country who's a big Raiders fan really enjoyed that last night. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. Jason, how are you? I think I could hear you laughing either from Connecticut or Nashville or wherever the hell you were watching that game from. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm great, man, and always a blast talking. Yeah, I was laughing, crying, all of the emotions in Connecticut. At one point, I think somebody caught me on video because I was hosting a Monday Night Football show. At the end of the Monday Night Football pregame show, I finally said on air live, I was like, look, I don't know what y'all expect me to do. The Raiders have the ball, they're driving. There's 30 seconds left. I'm not going to do my job here. So, I had to make sure that I got the sponsor read in, so they were yelling in my ears like, pay the bills. And I'm like, get out of my ears. I'm trying to watch the end of the dang game. So, I don't know what they were thinking put me on air during a Raiders game, but it was an ugly, ugly win for the Raiders. But to your point, an important game. And right now, I think what we're sleeping on in the AFC is that maybe none of these teams are good, and that's fine. But these teams are going to go to the playoffs, and that means so much to so many of these franchises. Like the fact that we've got 3 games left and we have genuinely no idea who's going to be the wild card. I think that's really interesting this year in the NFL, and it's going to take the one thing to make the playoffs that nobody's been able to do, and that's manage some level of consistency. That nobody can do it, and it's right there for everybody. All you got to do is win the games in front of you, and nobody can do that right now.
No, you're right. Look, the Browns started the season 3-1, and then they started playing better teams, and the injuries started catching up with them, and they have yet to win back-to-back games since that point. So that speaks to your point about the consistency, and that's the case for the Bengals, the Ravens, Steelers. Even though the Ravens have lost 3 straight, they're doing that consistently, which has been good for some of the other teams in the AFC and the North especially. But let's talk about your mindset heading into that Browns-Raiders game, because this was just a very wonky situation. I know that the Raiders were upset with the league initially because there was talks of moving this game, which they ultimately did, and Raiders fans were upset. I know the AFC North fans were upset. The Bengals fans were like, oh, of course they're doing this. They're taking care of the Browns. And I'm like, how crazy do you have to be to think that the league cares about the Cleveland Browns of all teams, by the way? But anyways, that's besides the point. My big thing, Jason, was forget your team affiliation. Jason Fitz, the football fan, Justin Kinner, the football fan, Bengals fan, Steelers. We should all be hoping that the league does adapt and move the Raiders-Browns game, because it could be your team next week. Look at the outbreak with the Browns. Hopefully this doesn't happen, but this could happen to your Raiders, Jason, after playing the Browns. And you, as a fan base, we all have to be a fan together here and hope that the NFL is willing to adapt and move games back, despite saying that they wouldn't coming into the year. Did you agree with your team's stance on being upset with the league initially for being willing to move this game?
No, I think all of it's twisted a little bit. And to your point, I want to see the games played. I don't want a forfeiture at all in this process. So I want to see games played. Like, I get 17 opportunities a year to watch the Raiders play, and that means something to me. I want to watch games. The thing that bothered me wasn't about the postponement. Is that the NFL basically looked at this process, moved a bunch of these games, and then changed the testing protocol. So, just be honest with us, Roger Goodell. All you care about is money, and we know that. Just be real with me. I respect the fact the NFL has come in and basically said, now, if you're vaccinated, there's only going to be spot testing, likely only for people that are symptomatic. So essentially what they're saying is the best way to avoid this every week is just to not test as frequently and not get as good a look at who has COVID. I'm fine with that. Just be real about what's motivating us. I think it's funny, and I said this last night on ESPN. We keep calling them COVID postponements. They weren't. They're cash postponements. These games need to be played for everybody to get paid in the process, and that's real for the league, for the players, for the teams, for incentives, for fans. I want to see games played. I think the league is we need to remember that it's a bottom line league, and they're always going to protect their bottom line. It wasn't about any one team. It wasn't about doing right for the Browns or wrong for the Raiders. It was about making sure that they put up a system that's going to allow everybody to keep getting paid every week.
And these problems are starting to peak here at the most important time of the season. Cleveland is one of the first, one of the first victims of this, right? And I hate to use that word, especially in the real terms. In real life, real victims occur, so I shouldn't use that phrase. But as far as from the sports perspective, they're the ones that have suffered a loss now due to this. And by the way, even if they had Baker and everyone fully healthy, this Raiders game, I still anticipated it to be a close one on top of that. But we're getting to the most important time of the year. The playoffs are coming up around the corner. I mean, I don't think there's a chance we make it to the entire playoffs without some team being impacted by it. The Browns were snake bit last year. Stefanski couldn't be on the sidelines for their game against the Steelers. They had multiple offensive linemen out against the Steelers. They were able to get a win. It was a feel-good story, but I don't think there's anything feel-good about getting to the playoffs, Jason, and then having teams who have fought hard all year all of a sudden have almost practice squad rosters in a playoff game. But that's just kind of the nature of the world we're going to live in moving forward with football and COVID.
Well, and that's a little bit of what the NFL created by when they scheduled all of this. They didn't leave themselves any wiggle room to move a week if they need to. And the problem when you move a week is, are you sure that it's going to get any better? I mean, we can look at the Raiders game specifically from my standpoint as a Raiders fan. The Raiders had no COVID issues, and then by delaying 2 games, they had an issue. So, Nate Hobbs, their slot corner that's significant, was put on the COVID-19 list on Monday. So every time we talk about delays, we have to remember there's a chance other players now will be impacted by it. So they're in a sort of chasing their tail situation with the NFL. And I think what you said there that nobody seems to want to just stop and acknowledge is that there's a really good chance this is going to impact the playoffs, going to impact the Super Bowl. Like, that's all right there, the way everything's going. And it doesn't feel like the league has they've left themselves any wiggle room to make sure that we don't end up with a sudden world where these teams fought all year and you get into the playoffs and we end up with third-string quarterback versus third-string quarterback to decide the playoff legacy. I mean, that's a nightmare scenario when you start talking about the Raiders, the Browns, the Bengals, franchises that don't taste the playoff sweetness often, to think that any team could get into the playoffs and then be less of themselves because of COVID, symptomatic or not, is a nightmare scenario for the league.
ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz with us here on the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, 1410 Wing AM, Dayton's ESPN radio station. Raiders beat the Browns last night 16-14 in a really good game. Ugly at times, but again, it's all worth it when you get to that final stretch. Jason, when Carr threw that interception with about 2:30 to go, did you think the game was over at that point? What was your initial reaction? Because for me, everyone was jumping up and down. I was jumping up and down, and then reality kicked in, and I looked down at the clock, and I said, well, not only do we have to rely on the Browns to get a first down to run clock, we have to rely on the defense to get a stop if the Raiders get the ball back. I became the most negative person in the world after an interception somehow, and I don't get it, but I had a feeling something like that was going to happen. In a typical Browns fashion, they found a way to lose a game that they had a chance to seal.
Well, and I was a little bit, I was sort of back and forth on this because Carr has done this a lot in his career, as was covered last night in the game. Like, he seems to find a way to come up big late in games. And the Raiders defense this year has done a really nice job of getting the stop when they need it most. It's one of the things that's really been underrated for defense that's been underrated. But the other side of it is, like, the Browns are running the ball more effectively in the fourth quarter. The Raiders defense looked gassed at that point. So when I'm looking at the clock, I'm thinking, my God, all they need is a couple of first downs and this thing's over. And I'm watching a defensive line that's been absolutely gassed. I mean, that was a stunning end to me, only because it was not the stars for the Raiders that stepped up on that third down run and stuffed it. It was, role players that are growing into things. It was Divine Diablo, who wasn't even playing for the Raiders a few weeks ago, a rookie that they didn't expect much from. Comes up and makes a really big play at the line of scrimmage that allows the tackle to be made. So I was a little surprised to see the defense stand up tall the way they did. And once they did, yeah, I mean, I know every coach has their own strategy. Icing a kicker that's really good, and the Raiders happen to have a really good kicker, I think it's one of the dumbest things in the NFL. Like, all you're doing is letting him get a practice swing, letting him get warm. Like, this isn't a rookie that's never made a big kick. So I felt really confident once the Raiders got the ball back that they were going to be able to get something done, because I've watched Derek Carr do it so many times. I mean, he may not be a great quarterback, but 2 minute drill, he is.
Well, yeah, I laugh at people. Carr's not a great quarterback, but I think that there's only less than a handful of actual great quarterbacks in the league. I've always said this, that people, the teams that are constantly looking for that Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, you're constantly going to be running in a circle. I think that Carr's better than Baker, but even the people that are like, man, we got to move on from Baker. I'm like, okay, it's one thing to say you're going to move on from Baker, but move on to who? I mean, this is a franchise that for 2 decades couldn't even find a Baker, win in the playoffs, or make the playoffs, win in the playoffs, or expected to win. And now we're ready to move on because, oh man, we need an Aaron Rodgers. We need this. A lot of teams need an Aaron Rodgers. The Raiders would definitely love an Aaron Rodgers. But I think that quarterbacks like Baker and Carr and some other quarterbacks of the league get so much disrespect. And they're the ones that are actually just as tough to find as the great quarterbacks. I just think that Raiders fan, where are you at Carr as far as the future of Carr at quarterback with the Raiders?
Well, if I have my way, Carr would be with the Raiders for the next 10 years. I agree with you 1,000%. And look, I've heard the Baker chatter. Obviously, you can't work at ESPN and not hear it. But the funny thing is, I've talked to everybody. You know, I've been lucky to cover the draft. This will be my 6th year covering the NFL draft for ESPN this year. And I can tell you, I've already been talking for months to every draft analyst I respect, to coaches I respect, to guys that played the game that I respect. There is not a guy in this draft that's a quarterback. There's not a quarterback in this draft that anybody is like, yeah, I would bet a top 10 pick in the draft on that guy. There are a lot of quarterbacks that maybe could turn out to be okay, but we are so quarterback starved, and the Baker conversation is relevant here because ESPN sat here about a year ago and said last offseason would be the offseason of unprecedented change at quarterback, and we didn't see that because through it all, at the end of the day, organizations realize that you got to pay the guy you have if you don't have another option. And there's not very often that you have another option out there. So, you know, Carr's got 1 year, $25 million left on his contract. It's a very tradable contract, but I would really be surprised if the Raiders don't try and figure out a way to keep him long-term simply because the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And do you really want to go in with Sam Howell, for example, out of North Carolina, who I've talked to 3 different people that know that program well, and they've all said that there is zero proof that he has any idea how to run an NFL offense because of the type of offense that's being run at North Carolina. I had one guy tell me that the concept they're told to practice at North Carolina is find green grass. That's literally what they're coached. So if you're being coached, find green grass, and now you have to go into a situation where you have to learn a huge playbook with all of these different variables in it. We have no idea if Sam Howell can do that. So we have to remember the massive leap. This is a bad year for quarterbacks in the draft. I struggle to see, as much as everybody else wants to find a way for Russell Wilson to end up somewhere else. Like, there's going to be a bidding war for mediocrity because at the end of the day, too many teams don't know what they're doing at quarterback. And if you're a team like the Steelers, are you going to roll the dice and Kenny Pickett maybe? But like, it's just tough. It's tough sledding out there. I tell everybody, remember the context of what the rest of the houses in the neighborhood are dealing with when you start looking at the price of your own house. And that's a real conversation for Baker Mayfield.
All right, Jason, send us out with this. I'm going to go down each division and just throw out the top 2 teams in those and ask you who's winning this division. That's how we'll end today's segment. We'll start in the AFC East. Right now, the Patriots and the Bills. Patriots 9-5, Bills 8-6. Of those 2 teams, who's coming out on top in the AFC East? I know it's a long shot. The Dolphins have been streaking as well. They've won 6 straight. But I think everyone's looking at the Patriots and the Bills. Who's coming out on top in these final 3 games in the AFC East, Bills or Patriots?
I mean, they play this weekend, right? And I trust Belichick more than I trust the inconsistency of Buffalo. And they're too one-dimensional. They can't run the ball. The Patriots are going to win that division, and it makes me barf in my mouth when I say that.
The Titans, no Derrick Henry. I know everyone said, oh, man, they win that game this past weekend if they have Derrick Henry. I said they still have 200 total yards rushing. I disagree with that. They still have a good rushing attack. They still are who they are. Sure, they'd be better with Derrick Henry, but they're right there at the top of the South, 9-5. The Colts, you never know what you're going to get each and every week, but that's the story of the AFC. Colts or Titans, who's coming out of the AFC South?
I think right now the Colts are playing better football, but they've already been swept by the Titans, and that'll make the ultimate difference. So the Titans will win the division.
AFC West, the Chiefs, the Chargers. The Chiefs have the Steelers coming up. Sounds like a lot of like Kelsey and Hill and some key hitters for them are going to potentially be out, according to some reports coming out now. What a setup for Pittsburgh, by the way. But the AFC West, the Chiefs, the Chargers. Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, who's going to represent the West when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are, and we mentioned inconsistent. That also defines the Chargers. Even without weapons, Patrick Mahomes, I'm still going to put my money on Patty Mahomes yet again to do it. I hate these picks, but I feel good about them.
And the NFC, not a lot of divisions to be deciphered there. We already saw Green Bay take care of business. Obviously, I think Dallas, they're well on their way to wrapping up the East here in the coming weeks. Tampa has that under control, even with losing to New Orleans recently. But the Cardinals and the Rams, what a weird loss for the Cardinals this past weekend against the Lions. The Rams getting some guys back off that COVID list. Where are you at with the Cardinals and the Rams? Who's coming out of the West?
I think I would have said a week ago the Cardinals, but man, I think there is something to the fact that the Cardinals are not as swaggy, as dumb as that sounds right now. The Rams have a different level of, we're good, we're going to be fine. I think the Rams are going to come out of that division.
And last but not least, last thing here before we let you go, the AFC North. I mean, we're talking about the top two teams in every other division, but right now a game separates every team in the AFC North. The Browns are in the basement. They're in last place, but they're a game behind the Bengals, who are in first place. It's the weirdest thing. It's so competitive. Who's coming out of the AFC North? Is Baltimore going to end this 3-game losing streak and figure it out if they get Lamar back? Pittsburgh, they're just quietly hiding in the weeds a little bit. They might stun the Chiefs this week if the Chiefs are shorthanded, and the next thing you know, the Steelers are right there in the mix. Who's coming out of the North right now?
I don't trust Big Ben, so I'm not going to take the Steelers. I think the Browns have sort of laid their bed at this point, so I'm going to leave them out of this conversation. The Ravens, the back is broken. It's just too much. They've endured too many injuries this year. I think the Bengals sort of wilt their way into this situation. And you know how much I love Joe Burrow. You know how big a fan I am. But I think the Bengals are going to be able to win this division just because everybody else is falling apart or has a larger glaring weakness going into the end of the season.
See, when I said that I'm a hater, you said the same exact thing as me, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, he picked the Bengals. He's awesome. So everyone loves Jason. So there you go. All right, ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz, good enough to join us today. Jason, it's the last time we talk to you this year at least. We'll talk to you the first week in January. I'm off all next week, but just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thanks so much for spending time with us each week. We really appreciate it.
Man, I look forward to this hit every single week, and I genuinely mean that. I love coming on with you guys. I love hanging out with you, my friend. Have a Merry Christmas, and thanks you guys for giving me the platform and the time to talk to you every week.
All right, take care, Jason. All right, ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. I appreciate him spending time and hanging out with us there. But yes, there's so many tight races in the AFC alone. Patriots, Bills. I mean, you have the Titans, of course. You have the Titans and you have the Colts. And of course, you have the entire AFC North right now. You have the Chiefs and the Chargers. The AFC is loaded. But Jason did make a good point. When I say that they're loaded, they're stacked with average teams. Like, I keep thinking that the AFC is this great conference, but it's not. Like, I think that the best teams, if you look at the NFC does not look as good as the AFC. You see the AFC North and every team is 500 or above, right? You look at that, you look at a lot of the top hitters in the AFC, and there's a lot of good ones. The NFC doesn't look as good, but that's where you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's where you have your Cardinals and Rams. That's where you have your Dallas Cowboys, your Green Bay Packers. Sure, the division races are not as entertaining or not as tight or interesting, but I think that the best teams with the highest Super Bowl chances are in the side of the NFC, despite the fact that the AFC has way more contenders. AFC, NFC, which is the better conference, or which is who has the better divisions? I think it's the NFC. I know that there's more competition in the AFC as far as I think there's more like teams. I think that the gap between the Bills and the Patriots, it's not very big. It's entertaining all the way down to the finish line. The Dolphins, don't forget about them. They're making things interesting as they're streaking. They've won 6 straight. All of a sudden, Tua, with the worst offensive line in football, by the way, finding ways to get it done. I don't hear Dolphins fans saying, man, if we could just get an offensive line, we would be winning more games. Well, they've won 6 straight with a worse offensive line than another particular AFC team that likes to use a lot of excuses for why they're not better than what they are. But Jason Fitz just said it. The Bengals are going to come away with this AFC North, and it's not because they're a great team. It's just because injuries have caught up with the Ravens. The Browns just don't have enough left in the tank with all their injuries and COVID. And you can't trust Big Ben. It's one of the worst Steelers teams in decades. So, yes, brag about being in first, feel good about it. No one expected you to be there, but no one expected the Browns to be depleted with injuries and COVID. No one expected the Ravens to be depleted with injuries the way that they are. And I think that the team that is actually better than people expected is the Steelers. The Steelers 7-6-1 they could potentially be 8-6-1 if they play a depleted Chiefs team this coming up weekend. They're more of a surprise than the Bengals. Because although the Bengals fans try to act like there's not talent on that roster, I don't know how you try to convince people that, we're good, we're confident. But, remember, we're just not a finished product yet. $200 million on your defense, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon. Oofa. I don't want to hear about that offensive line. The Dolphins have a worse offensive line. They've won 6 straight. They're cruising. Okay, they're taking care of business. They're beating good teams along the way. I don't want to hear about youth either. The Bengals try to pretend to be this young team. Oh, we're so young. No, you're not. Did you know that the Cleveland Browns have a younger roster than the Cincinnati Bengals? Did you know that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a younger roster than the Cincinnati Bengals? Did you know that the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys have a younger roster than the Cincinnati Bengals? So I don't want to hear about the offensive line. That's your fault, by the way. You supported the team not addressing the offensive line, so that's on you as well. Don't feel bad for you there. It's not youth, no matter what you try to tell me, because they're not even the youngest team in their own division, much less their conference. So I don't want to hear that either. So it is what it is, but I did find that take interesting from Jason Fitz, basically saying the same thing I did, but I get ripped for it. It is what it is. I appreciate it. I enjoy being yelled at. It is what it is. 518-1410. A couple of you on hold. We'll get to you on the other side of the break. We'll also get into some news from Ohio State. Keep in mind, Ohio State, that former Buckeye quarterback, has transferred within the SEC. We know that Quinn Ewers entered the transfer portal not too long ago, right after the season ended, and he made a quick decision, and he will be a Texas Longhorn in 2022. But there's another quarterback that entered the transfer portal from last year's Buckeye roster, and he's made a decision of where he will play in the SEC. We'll talk about that next.
Audible is best-selling audiobooks, exclusive originals, and podcasts all in one app. This holiday season, treat yourself with 60% off your first 3 months. Just visit audible.com for more details.
Hi, this is Eddie Sorrell, Service Manager at Germain Honda Beaver Creek, recipient of Honda's President's Award. When your vehicle needs service, we make it convenient. Open 6 days a week, including all day Saturday. We also welcome same-day appointments and walk-ins as well. Our technicians are factory trained, and we offer a new state-of-the-art facility, clean waiting rooms, loaner cars, and free alignment checks as well. Ask for the $99.95 alignment special. Germain Honda Beaver Creek, Route 35, just east of 675. Between Xenia and Beaver Creek.
Come rain or shine, high winds or mild breezes, blue skies or gray, it's a great time to consider getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Football fans, the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show is officially back. Every Sunday morning starting at 11:30 a.m., College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers and Justin Kinner will be live at Frickers on 741 by the Dayton Mall. The guys will recap the biggest games from college football Saturday, including your Ohio State Buckeyes. The guys will also get you set up for the day's biggest NFL matchups, featuring your Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, and more. It's the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show, live from Frickers on 741, Sunday mornings at 11:30 on 1410 ESPN Radio.
You need an accurate thermometer to check for fever, a potential sign of flu or COVID. Be vigilant and contact your medical provider at the first sign of fever. Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer has been proven accurate in more than 100 clinical studies. Exergen Temporal Scanners are available at Walmart and other fine retailers. Learn more at Exergen.com. That's EXERGEN.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip-hop, or house, country, techno, or techno country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Did you know that most adults with autism are unemployed, and a major hurdle is the lack of job opportunities? That's why Autism Speaks is teaming up with Lee Container, the J. Donald and Laurel Lee Family Foundation Fund, and Delivering Jobs to create a more inclusive workforce in the U.S. Are you an HR professional, community leader, or business owner? Join us in creating a workforce where people of all abilities can contribute and thrive. To learn more, visit autismspeaks.org/employment.
Furnished by the Entertainment Industry Foundation.
Getting a live Christmas tree to plant after the holidays? Well, here are some tips. In the house, keep it away from heat sources that could wake it up out of dormancy. You don't want that. Dig your hole now before the ground freezes. Or if you plan to wait till spring, you need to protect roots from extreme cold with mulch or straw. And move it from the warm house to an unheated area like a garage temporarily to make the transition outside more gentle. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from the Ohio chapter of the International Society of Arboriculture at treesforohio.org. That's trees, the number 4, ohio.org.
Skyline gift cards make great last-minute gifts. Now through Christmas Eve, you'll get a free $5 gift certificate when you buy $30 in Skyline gift cards at participating Skyline restaurants. See store for details. Feeling good. It's Skyline time.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Come rain or shine, high winds or mild breezes, blue skies or gray, it's a great time to consider getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Winter is here, and Rob's Beer Barn is stocked with seasonal refreshments and holiday beers, and they're going fast, just in time for your favorite sporting events. Rob's Beer Barn also has you covered for your holiday plans. At Rob's, you'll find all the ice-cold refreshments you'll need: craft, imported, local, and seasonal beers, fine wine, snacks, and ice. Plus, Rob's Beer Barn has apparel. For last-minute items, you can call, walk in, or drive through. Stock up today. Rob's Beer Barn on Indian Ribble Road at Darst, just a mile east of the green. Rob's Beer Barn, just look for the beaver.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
This flu season update is sponsored by Exergen. Do you have the flu? Here's CBS News medical contributor, Dr. David Agus.
The flu classically doesn't have GI symptoms to start and respiratory symptoms. It can, but it doesn't. But they can imitate each other. So the flu classically starts with fever and chills. And then if you have it for more than 3 days, you need to go to your doctor.
The leading sign of COVID is a fever. So everyone needs an accurate thermometer. Try the Exergen temporal scanner and learn more at Exergen.com.
BC Powder knows life pushes us to the max. Work to the max. Family to the max. It can all mean pain to the max. So BC introduces new BC Max Strength. New BC Max relieves tough headaches and body pain at the speed of powder. Nothing stronger on pain without a prescription. Pain to the max? New BC Max. In a great tasting lemonade flavor.
Come rain or shine, high winds or mild breezes, blue skies or gray, it's a great time to consider getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
The Justin Kinner Show right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. Shout out to ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. Appreciate him taking time. He hangs out with us each and every week. Talk about all the top headlines in college football and the NFL. Of course, right now, it's just that major lull in college football. I hate it. I still think there's way too much damn time between the conference championship weekend, Selection Sunday, and when the games that actually matter, the only games that matter, the college football playoffs. I think it's ridiculous. I still think that there's way too much time between Selection Sunday and when the actual playoff starts. Like, to me, I still think that the championship game should be on New Year's Eve. Like, crown a national champion on New Year's Eve. Or crown a national champion on New Year's Day. I don't care. But when Selection Sunday was on December 5th, it's the 21st, and I just feel like all the momentum that Cincinnati had as far as headlines. And, when I see the Cincinnati on their social media accounts, the Bearcats, they're like, oh, check out the jerseys we're wearing. I'm like, oh, yeah, the playoff. Like, I just feel like by the time you finally get to the playoff games themselves, they've lost so much momentum that I'm not saying that no one watches. Clearly they watch, and clearly people spend a nice, pretty little penny to go attend and watch these games. But my goodness, I just do not think that, as great as college football is and as perfect as they are on more things than this is a strikeout to me. Like, I just don't know how every year we talk about expanding the playoff. What can we do to make it better? How about tightening the schedule? And I don't mean the regular season, but the championship. You have the college football playoff selection show on December 5th. They don't play again until New Year's Eve on the 31st. Like, that's ridiculous. You could have easily done the college, like the semifinals should have been this past Saturday, the 18th. The 18th or the 19th, however you want to do it. This on the 18th, it would have been a Saturday. That would have been 2 weeks removed from Selection Sunday. Let the semifinals be on the 18th. You now know. So starting on the 18th, you have your semifinals. You know who your national championship game is going to be. Let the national championship be played on New Year's Eve, the same date that you have the semifinals. Why a month between games? And don't tell me, well, they have finals and they have their exams. And, oh, yeah, that's why. Because college football has always been very weary of education for these student athletes in September, October, November, right? But December, that's the month that the college football playoff takes the education side of this serious. Give me a break. There may be reasons why that there's a month gap between Selection Sunday and when the playoff initially starts. It doesn't mean that they're good. It doesn't mean that they're good. I've said this a million times. The one reason that the NCAA tournament and March Madness and conference championship weekend in college basketball, like, let's be real. I don't care who wins the SEC championship or the ACC championship in college basketball, but sometimes there are great games. You get teams that aren't the top two teams in the ACC or the SEC, but they get hot at the right time of the year. They streak through the conference tournament. They take momentum right into the first four or the first round. And then those are sometimes the teams that make those deep runs. But it just feels like it's all connected. Regular season wraps up, conference championship weeks, because there's conference championship tournaments are spread out for over a 2-week period. And then boom, right into Selection Sunday. On Selection Sunday, you have games and you have championships being crowned on Selection Sunday, goes right into the show. You have 2 days to build it all up. The first four tips off right here in the epicenter of college basketball, the city of Dayton, right? It's awesome. Like, I just feel like college basketball, for as much heat as they get for why the sport is not as big as it should be, they do their postseason better than any other sport out there. It's better than the NFL. It's better than the NBA, the playoffs in Major League Baseball, NHL, what have you. College basketball doesn't get it right in the months of November, December, January, February, but they get it right in March. There's no doubt about it. College football, as great as you are, this is just, I'm not as amped for these games anymore. I'm going to watch them, but I feel like, man, we get so heated, so passionate about the debates of who should be in the college football playoff that we finally figured out, and now we got to wait a month. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying it should be just like college basketball where you go right into it. But although, why not? Why not? I mean, Selection Sunday's on the 5th. Why, find out who your teams are and let the semifinal be on the 11th. And then if you want to have a 2-week, 3-week build to the national championship game, then fine. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous to go this long, especially because you have so many meaningless bowl games that everyone just does nothing but bitch and complain about. Oh, the coaches are, they're taking jobs before they even end the season with their bowl game. The players are entering the transfer portal before they even get to their bowl game. Players are opting out of their bowl game to focus on the NFL draft because they don't want to get hurt, because that's how meaningless it is. Because apparently the only games that you can get hurt in the month of December are bowl games and not the actual college. You could play in the college football playoff. There's zero risk of getting hurt there. But, man, you play in a bowl game in December, there's a ton of risk there. And they just can't do that, right? Like, there's too many negative storylines that come out during the college football season in the month of December that by the time you get to the actual games that matter, I've just had enough. I'm tired of hearing people complain about coaches, about Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame for LSU, about Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma for USC. Oh, man, Ryan Day could potentially be taking the Bears job, and he says he's not interested, and you fools actually believe him. I mean, you heard Ryan Day say, I'm not, that those reports are false, that, he's committed to Ohio State. Yeah, I bet you when you go to a strip club, you actually believe that they like you too, right? Come on, don't be that gullible. Don't be like that, because every Oklahoma fan said the same thing about Riley. Every Notre Dame fan said the same thing about Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly has a history of doing that, and they still didn't believe he would actually leave. So there's too many negative storylines in the month of December that could be cleared up by Selection Sunday, 7 days later, 2 weeks later, semifinals. And in the 2 weeks leading up to that semifinal, you could sprinkle in some of the bigger bowl games. Semifinals, you now know who your national champion is going to be. Take some of the other big bowl games and sprinkle those in those 2 weeks leading up to the national championship game on New Year's Eve. That's my TED Talk regarding the college football playoff. As great as college football is, I think that they really let everybody down in the build-up to that. 518-1410, whether you want to talk NFL, whether you want to talk college football, we'll get into the Ohio State quarterback transfer situation here in a moment. Actually, I lied. It's up next on my rundown. Let's just get to it now. This came out earlier today. Found this interesting that Jack Miller, okay, we know that that Quinn Ewers, the number one quarterback prospect in the 2021 recruiting class, enrolled early at Ohio State, technically the 22 recruiting class, but he enrolled early at Ohio State due to taking advantage of the name, image, and likeness opportunities, which I had no problem with, by the way. You would do the same thing. I would do the same thing. So let's not judge him for doing that. I do not believe in the slightest that he took advantage of Ohio State. I think that what he did was pretty dang smart. Enroll early at Ohio State. Like I said, sure, he gave up 10 physical games out on the field in high school in the state of Texas, that he could have gained more experience on the field. But I believe that Quinn Ewers gained more knowledge in the film room, in just the presence of Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeye offensive program itself. He gained more experience and learned more about the college football game itself in this past year than he would have had he played those 10 games at the high school level like he was originally scheduled to do. I think that was a big plus for him. Yes, the big plus for him was also the name, image, and likeness money he got. But I also believe that the experience and the knowledge he gained, there is no way in hell he was going to be able to replicate what he learned and experienced at Ohio State by playing 10 games and maybe more in the playoffs in Texas. So I think that he learned a lot, benefited from that. I also think that Ohio State, what they did is they showed good faith in allowing him to enroll early, by welcoming him into the film room, into the QB room, a stacked one at that, with, of course, Kyle McCord and Jack Miller and CJ Stroud and now Quinn Ewers, knowing that a good chunk, 50% of those guys, if not more, were going to transfer out. And that's what's ultimately happened. Quinn Ewers transferred out, committed to Texas. Steve Sarkisian, he's going to play in Sarkisian's offense there at Texas. Will he ever play in the SEC? We don't exactly know the time frame of which Texas will officially be welcomed into the SEC. There's going to be a lot of financial hoops that they have to jump through to be able to get that done. So I don't know. It could be 2025 by the time that's the case. And we could see him already out of Texas and in the NFL by that point. So who knows? But that led to the other Ohio State quarterback that announced that he had entered the transfer portal, and that was Jack Miller. Jack Miller announced today that he is committed to the University of Florida. He will now be a Florida Gator quarterback, and I think that's pretty exciting. I'm actually pretty jacked to see what's going to happen. Emory Jones, is that his name? The former Buckeye commit that entered the transfer portal, or at least transferred from Ohio State, sat out and went to Florida. That didn't really pan out very well there, but it will be interesting to see what happens with Jack Miller. I think that you're going to see more of this. Is Jack Miller the next Is he the next Joe Burrow? I remember when Buckeye fans are trying to say, "Oh, Jack Miller leaving, it's not that big of a deal." Is Jack Miller going to be the next, Tate Martell, or is Jack Miller going to be the next Joe Burrow? I don't know, but I do know that you don't come to Ohio State, you don't commit to Ohio State without being really, really good. Bums aren't coming to Ohio State. Even the guys that Ohio State doesn't think is going to have a chance to be the starting quarterback. Jack Miller's not a bum. Kyle McCord's not a bum. May not be Quinn Ewers, may not be C.J. Stroud, but they sure as hell ain't no bum. I think that Florida got a really good quarterback, and I think that's pretty exciting because Florida did not do well in the coaching search, and the recruiting class wasn't very big. But I mean, getting Jack Miller, I think, is going to close the gap on their rebuild, if you will, moving forward. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show here live on 1410 ESPN Radio, 518-1410. That's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. We're also live on Facebook and live on YouTube. I'll be taking some questions there. Ron Broadstock says the Steelers are the most surprising team. I think so. I do believe that the Steelers are the most surprising team. I think that when it comes to the AFC North, I think that the Bengals are a big surprise as well. And the Steelers are a surprise. But I think that the Steelers are more of a surprise because they're not a good team, and yet there they are. I'm acknowledging that the Bengals are a good team. I know they have a good quarterback. I know they have elite playmakers in the backfield and wideout. They have 3 really big-time playmakers in Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I know they have talent there. I know they have a talent at quarterback. I know Joe Mixon's a top 5 running back in the NFL, statistically at least this year. I know that. So that's why I'm for the Steelers, they have no offensive line. They have no run game. Their wide receiver is a head case in Claypool. I can't stand Claypool. Everything that the Bengals used to be, a team full of talented head cases, that's who the Steelers are now. When you have Claypool and you just have these, and Juju Smith-Schuster, these guys are just boneheads, man. They will blow your season up at any given moment. We saw that already with Claypool. The Steelers lost a game because of Claypool. That's unacceptable. But here they are, 7-6-1. They're a game out of first place in the AFC North. No one gave them a shot coming into the year. They had to draft a rookie running back just to hopefully give themselves a shot. So, yes, I think that when you look at the two teams, the Steelers and the Bengals, I think it's more surprising that the Steelers have a chance to still win this division. I don't think it's that big of a surprise that a talented Bengals roster who has spent $200 million on their defense, has a great quarterback, 3 excellent playmakers at wideout, and a top 5 running back in Joe Mixon. I don't think it's that surprising that they're sitting at the top of the AFC North. I think it's a surprise that the Steelers are still in this with how poor if you watch the Steelers play, it's painful. It's death by a million paper cuts, right? It's ugly football. So, and that's coming from a Browns fan who watches ugly football in a freaking given week, right? So that's why, to me, that's not a shot at the Bengals. I'm actually complimenting the Bengals. And no, it's not a surprise that the Bengals are sitting atop the AFC North. They have talent on both sides of the ball. They have playmakers. They have a run game. They have a $200 million defense. It's not a surprise that they're there. You guys are trying to do this. You guys want this safety blanket of the expectations of the Bengals coming into the year. You want me to say that, oh, man, that they were horrible coming into the year and that nobody gave them a shot. I didn't give them a shot because I didn't think that offensive line would be good enough to allow Burrow to be healthy enough to this point of the year. He's still healthy. He's still here. His weapons don't miss games. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, they don't miss games. Joe Mixon's missed, I think, maybe 1 or 2. He doesn't miss games. So, no, it's not surprising at all that they're there. Not by any means. I think Pittsburgh is more of a surprise than the Cincinnati Bengals. Ron, do you disagree? Are you saying that the Bengals are more of a surprise? I could see why I think they're both surprising. I don't think coming into the year, I think everybody thought this division would be battled out between the Browns and the Ravens, with the Steelers and the Bengals finishing 3rd or 4th in the division. That's not the case. So I think that's why I have Pittsburgh where they are at. So, all right, 518-1410. Let's go to Tim. Tim, how are you, sir? Tim in Kettering, welcome.
Hey, you're absolutely right about that lull. That just takes all the momentum out of college football. I mean, I agree with you completely. Have that semifinal quick, and then 2 weeks later, have the final. There is. I mean, I've kind of forgotten about it. Hey, but what I was calling to talk about was the Browns and the Packers coming up, and the way that the Browns might beat the Packers. Now, they're going to need a lot of luck, but, the Packers special teams, they've been awful, and they have been for the past 5 or 6 years. Every year they're ranked 29th, 30th, 31st in the league. But we've always had a good kicker, Mason Crosby. He's missed 9 field goals this year, which is just, shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And every game, somebody does at least one really stupid thing on special teams. And if the Browns can capitalize, score on that. The Packers have been weak generally. The run between the tackles. Kenny Clark is a great defensive lineman. The other guys just aren't very good. Kenny Clark's going to be out of the game, it looks like. He was out, and I think he's going to be out against the Browns. Just keep running it up the middle. Even if you don't have a lot of success, keep doing it, because the outside linebackers are going to start cheating. Instead of holding the edge, they're going to start cutting across. And if you got Hunt in there too, he's going to be able to get around those guys. The Packers defense is, and I hate to say this, some good players and some surprising things this year. But the Packers defense is always overrated, especially because they're without all-pro corner Jair Alexander all year. They're without all-pro pass rushers Zadarius Smith. With Kenny King out, man, the Packers are, they've got some guys that have gotten off the street, undrafted free agents, and guys that haven't played, that were actually on the street in the season, come up and played wonderfully. But I think the running game would give them a chance. Now, they're going to need luck, but if you saw the game the other night against the Ravens, you see Aaron Rodgers the whole first quarter sitting on the sidelines. If they win the toss, take the ball. Don't defer. You have to start out right from the get-go saying, hey, we want the ball in our hand as much as we can. Take that ball from the very beginning and just try to keep it out of Rodgers' hand. I mean, Rodgers is the MVP. With him and Brady, Rodgers throws, he's thrown 160 passes less than Brady. Brady throws 43 times a game. Rodgers throws 34. Rodgers throws 7, and for every interception, he's got 7.5 touchdowns. Brady, it's 3. Rodgers throws a pick every 110 passes. Brady every 55. I'll call again sometime when it gets closer to the MVP, and I'll talk some more about that. But one thing that you're wrong about, Justin, the Packers have been more injured than the Browns. Not counting the COVID devastation the Browns suffered. The Packers' offensive line, they only have one starter. One starter, all-pro David Bakhtiari's been out the whole year. Josh Myers, the rookie center starter, he's been out except for the first 3 or 4 games. Elton Jenkins, guard, he's on injured reserve. Billy Turner. We have one starter, and it's a rookie, Royce Newman, who was a weak link. They're playing really good, though, with those guys. I mean, they were able to take care of Nick Bosa and T.J. Watt and Aaron Darnold and Von Miller and Leonard Floyd, those guys. But and that's just, I think, really good coaching. Robert Tonyan led the league last year, touchdowns by a tight end. He's on IR and been out. I already talked about Jair Alexander. Randall Cobb's now out. I mean, they went into Arizona without their top 3 wide receivers. They had their slot receiver, though, Randall Cobb, for that game. And they ended up beating Arizona at Arizona. So I think the Packers are a heck of a team, but there is a chance that Cleveland, being desperate, could win. Now, the Packers want to keep that number 1 seed, so they're going to be playing hard, too. And it is at Lambeau, but I think there's a chance. And, of course, I'd be very bummed if it happened, but I think there's a chance that the Browns could actually beat the Packers at Lambeau.
Yeah, I think as far as Cleveland's concerned, they just got to get some guys back. If they have this skeleton roster that they just had against the Raiders last night, they were able to get a big boost from the fans being at home. I have a lot of friends that were at that game that told me, like, that's as loud of an atmosphere that they've been to. They go to every Cleveland home game, and they were saying that's as loud of an atmosphere that they've ever experienced at Cleveland in quite some time. They said that place was absolutely rocking. They didn't let the fact that it was a skeleton roster kind of bring the mood down. It was a playoff atmosphere. I think that helped them. They're not going to have that big push on the road at Green Bay, Lambeau Field in December against Aaron Rodgers. So it sounds like they're going to get Baker back. Kevin Stefanski's going to be back this coming up Saturday as well, head coach. So, and there's a lot more time now with the adjusted COVID protocols when it comes to testing now, that there's a good chance I can get some of these guys back heading into the weekend.
What about Kareem Hunt?
That's going to be key as well. Like that's that one thing that they're waiting on, obviously, with Nick Chubb. But I'm also worried about the Browns on the defensive side because, Takk McKinley's out for the rest of the year. Jadeveon Clowney's been so unreliable when he's on the field. He's been a great compliment to Myles Garrett, but Myles Garrett pulled his groin. So, and he didn't look he did not look explosive at all in that final 6 minutes of that game. So I don't know how quick a groin can heal, but hoping it's 4 or 5 days. That's for sure. You may not.
Yeah, Garrett. An injured Garrett would be tough because the thing is he causes turnovers. He not only gets sacks, but he causes turnovers, and that's the kind of thing they'll need against the Packers.
That's what they needed last night, man. They
going out there.
What's that? Sorry.
Going out there, 3 TDs, no picks, 4 TDs, no picks. I mean, his rating's just gone through the roof. But, if they can get pressure on him, because like you said, that is a makeshift offensive line. The good thing is that makeshift offensive line has been playing a lot together, so they're actually getting experience. That's a third string left tackle, Josh Neiman, an undrafted free agent who's, playing pretty good. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that with the Browns fans. I mean, these are the things that I think could happen that would allow the Browns to win. But running the ball and running it up the middle, get those outside linebackers to start cutting across. They were doing that against the Ravens, and you'll get around the edge on them. They'll lose a little discipline. So anyways, that's it. Have a Merry Christmas.
You as well, Tim. Take care. 518-1410. I am curious. So Tim brings up a good point. So I said earlier that the Browns and by the way, I meant totality wise, as far as the Browns and the Ravens have been the 2 most injured teams in the entire NFL this year. Tim is a big Packers fan. I really respect Tim. Tim calls in regularly and he keeps me in check. He calls me out all the time. But what I like is I go back at him, and then he calls back the next time, and we pick up where we left off. So I really like Tim. So Tim said I was wrong about that the Packers only have 1 starter. It's a makeshift offensive line. So I stand corrected on that. But I meant as a whole, between both sides of the ball, between multiple position groups for the Browns and the Ravens, no team has come close. Every team has injuries. But, man, the Browns and the Ravens, it's not an excuse. That's the explanation for why both of those teams are where they're at. The Ravens are the best team in the AFC North, period, when healthy. The Browns are the second best team in the AFC North, period, when healthy. The Steelers are the third best team in the AFC North, not the most talented, but the third best team. And then there's the Bengals, who are that wild card where they're like I said earlier, they don't have to like it. You can get over it. But it doesn't change the fact that the reality is that the Bengals are not the best team in the AFC North. They are the healthiest. And that's okay. That is totally fine. Because the Bengals were supposed to be this good this year anyways. So the fact that they are in this position, even if it means other teams having to be depleted due to injuries, then so be it. But I don't care if it makes you angry. That doesn't mean that what I'm saying isn't true. And it is true. You cannot convince me that you actually believe that the Bengals are better than the Browns when the Browns are healthy. If you know anything about football, the fact that the Browns have only had 1 game with 90% of their offense on the field, and that 1 game was against the Kansas City Chiefs. I pulled this up today because I started looking at the Browns injury report throughout the year. The Chiefs game, there was only 2 players the Browns didn't have as far as impact players. They didn't have OBJ, and they didn't have Grant Delpit. That's it. The Browns put up over close to 400 total yards of offense. They put up 3 touchdowns, scored over 30 points. I'm sorry, they 4 touchdowns. They put up over 30 points. That's when they were healthy. They started the season out 3-1. Week 2, the only player, the impact player that was out was OBJ. Second, Baker's shoulder got bashed in that first half against the Texans. The Browns' offense has never looked the same because Baker never looked the same. Go back and watch Baker against the Chiefs. Chiefs have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Baker shredded that defense. He had 300-plus yards total passing yards, multiple touchdowns. Baker was fantastic against the Chiefs when he was healthy. He has not been healthy since week 2. period. He's toughed it out. He's been out there, but it's not that hard to figure out. He looked against the Chiefs the way he looked against teams last year. He's throwing the ball all over the place. In the second half of last year to open up against Kansas City, gets injured in week 2 against Houston. Baker's never looked the same since then. So, but there's a trend here. The Browns started out 3-1. When the Browns have all their hitters out there, that's when they were the best. They started the season 3-1. The only difference between the 3-1 Browns and the 7-7 Browns is the 3-1 Browns had pretty much their entire roster. Folks, that's not a hot take. That's not me being a homer. That's just common sense. And I have no clue why I have to be labeled a hater for pointing out the obvious. The Bengals aren't the best team in the AFC North. They're the healthiest. The Browns and the Ravens are the 2 best teams in that division, period, when healthy. And they're not. And you're saying, you're right, they're not, so who cares? Well, I care. I care when I have to put up with weirdos like most Bengals fans, not all, who have to, tell us what this smells like from the basement and blah, blah, blah. When the only difference between the Browns and the Bengals is one game. One game is the difference between the Browns and the Bengals. And there's a lot of other differences, and it has a lot to do with just overall talent. The Browns have a Super Bowl caliber roster when healthy. When not healthy, they are in the basement. But the Bengals are sitting at the top, and you are only one game better than the last place team. Like, you guys love using the label of, you're in last place. That's fine. If you want to say it that way to make it sound worse than what they actually are, that's fine. But why don't you tell people what the case really is? That you have had your entire offense pretty much healthy from the very get-go. Your offensive line's beat up, but your offensive line wasn't good to begin with. So I don't care about your injuries on the offensive line. You had T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase all season. Had Joe Mixon for the majority of the season. You have had Joe Burrow all season. What are you talking about? You have these playmakers all over the place. You have a top 10 defense, a $200 million defense on top of that. You've been fairly healthy. You have some guys out, yes, but not in the masses that the Browns do. You have a top 10 defense, a $200 million defense, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, and you're one game better than a depleted Browns-Ravens team? You're one game better than a geriatric quarterback-led team in the Steelers? Okay, I can't wait to attend we're in first place in week 15 championship banner reveal coming up this weekend. But man, I just have to remind you, because you like to poke fun at me and the Browns. That's fine. But I got to remind you back. But my goodness, if you start looking at the Minnesota game for the Browns, no Jarvis Landry, no Greg Newsome, no Treader, no Jedrick Wills. The Chargers game, no Jarvis Landry, no Greg Newsome, no Treader, no Jedrick Wills, no Jadeveon Clowney. Impact players. I don't care about quantity. I care about quality. And the Browns have had a lot of quantity and quality. They've been missing that all year. The Cardinals game, no Jarvis Landry, no Nick Chubb, no Willis, no Treader, no Conklin, no Newsome, no Clowney. Baker's shoulder got banged up again in the first half. But hey, man, see, Baker Mayfield, too many commercials. That's why they're struggling. Or he has one arm. The whole offensive line was out against the Cardinals. No Jarvis Landry, no Nick Chubb. But yes, it's the TV commercials why the Browns are struggling. Morons. All right, let's go to the next game. The Denver Broncos game. No Nick Chubb, no Kareem Hunt, no Baker Mayfield, no Jack Conklin, no Treader, no Koromoa. And they put up more points against Denver's top defense than T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow. I'm just saying, you open that door for me to point out some of these facts, to let you know, to put you in check, to remind you that your team's not as good as you think, and that although your team is in first place, it's kind of sad that you're bragging about it, considering look how depleted and poor the Ravens and Browns are, and you're one game better. Congrats. More power to you. It is what it is. 518-1410, that's the number to call in. But like the last caller said, yes, the Packers, that offensive line is a makeshift offensive line. But I'm curious, fans in general, this. So Aaron Rodgers is the 14th most sacked quarterback in the NFL. So, sometimes, although the narrative is, oh man, we have a bunch of starters out. And I've said this about the Ravens. The Ravens have a ton of secondary pieces out. I think it's starting to catch up with them now. But you may be without your top 2-3 running backs. You may be without 4 of your top secondary guys. But is it a narrative? Is that the narrative when the backups come in and play just as well as the starters? The fact I know that the Packers, to that last caller, Tim, appreciate Tim bringing that to light here, but the Green Bay Packers offensive line grades in the top 10, even with the makeshift offensive line. You know what I mean? So I get what Tim is saying, but they're still graded pretty high. And Aaron Rodgers is not being touched. He's like right there in the middle. He's like 14th. Like that's not, he's barely being touched. So that's why I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, I don't know. Is that offensive line bad? Just because they don't have their starters? Like you can see when the Browns don't have their starting offensive line, it's bad. Baker's in the top 5. He's the top 5 most sacked quarterback in the NFL when his O-line's not there. When his line's there, that's not the case. But with Aaron Rodgers, Tim, that's a great point. Your whole entire offensive line is out except for one piece, but they're still protecting him. But you're right, that's coaching, and I appreciate that. But 518-1410. TJ Brusher says, can we just agree that the league is so unpredictable from week to week? That, no kidding. We can all agree on that. So Charles Mitchell says that the Bengals are the best and the healthiest. That's why we are in first place. Cleveland sucks. Doesn't matter who is playing. The Browns are in check, big dog. Okay. Like I said, look, you guys enjoy this. It is fun. You're in first. A lot had to happen for you to get there. That didn't all involve you, but I'm just saying, Cleveland's 7-7, and they feel like it's a bad year. The Bengals have one more win than the Browns, and you guys are ready to throw a parade. That's just the difference in the organizations right now. It's actually kind of sad. So, Bobby Sparks says Jackson Ravens are a one-trick pony. If Jackson plays poor, they lose. Okay. That's a lot of teams. If Patrick Mahomes plays poor, the Chiefs are going to lose. If Justin Herbert plays poor, the Chargers are going to lose. Joe Burrow plays poor, throws for under 200 yards. The Bengals are 4-0 on the year. That just means Lamar Jackson is more important to his team than Joe Burrow. That means Justin Herbert's more important to his team than Joe Burrow. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But yes, they are a one-trick team, but at the same time, they are not just Lamar Jackson. It's that defense. The Ravens have been winning games all year, not just because of Lamar Jackson, but because of that defense. That's why I kept saying earlier, I know the Ravens have had a lot of key pieces out in their secondary, but their backups come in and play just as well. Humphrey being out, though, has definitely exposed them as far as that's concerned. So Tim said that the Packers O-line coach is doing a great job and Rodgers is getting rid of the ball quick. I think it's a combination of everything. Aaron Rodgers plays at such a high level, smart, gets rid of the ball quick, gets guys involved. I agree, but that's why the Packers are one of the top teams in the league year in and year out. 518-1410. Jerry, I'm Raiders fan, Jerry. I'm sure you're really enjoying what happened last night.
No, not really. It was some ugly football, wasn't it? My goodness. Let's be honest.
Jerry, hold up real quick. I got to respond to this dude. Bobby Sparks says the Ravens definitely middle of the league. Yeah, they're middle of the league because of injuries. Like, right? Bobby, it's not that damn hard to understand that when the Ravens are healthy and the Browns are healthy, they are way better than the Cincinnati Bengals. It is not that hard to understand. Jerry, agree or not?
Justin, let me in on this, Justin. Let me
in, Jerry. Let's educate these guys.
For all you Bengal fans, it's week 15, okay? Last time I checked, you guys still have a game with Kansas City coming up. Am I right about that?
Oh, you're right.
You still got a game against the Browns. Hey, Justin, what happened the last time Bengals played the Browns?
The same thing that happened the previous 2 times they played the Browns. They got their ass kicked. It's as simple as that.
Did they get a mud hole? Did they get a mud hole stomped in them? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, real quick. Bobby says that's false, that the Bengals whooped Baltimore. Yes, you whooped a banged-up Baltimore. What is wrong with you? Do you Bengals fans pick on the little guy on the playground when you're little? Do you go around beating up, the little skinny, scrawny, nerdy kids and then brag about how many fights you've won? Like, that's what you're doing. You're just beating up on a bunch of bad teams and acting like, oh, man, we're the best. We're the best. You are one game better than the bad teams. You're one game better than the depleted rosters. Like, stop. You guys are, gosh, man.
What happens? Here's the thing, Justin. What happens? So I can see it'll be tough for Cleveland to beat Green Bay. It'll be tough for them to beat Green Bay and Green Bay. But it's going to be as tough or tougher for Cincinnati to beat Kansas City. They're the hottest team in the league. Okay? So what's going to likely happen is you're going to come down to the last week of the season, and it's going to be Cincinnati and Cleveland. And if Cleveland wins again, they'll have the tiebreaker on Cincinnati. So you could well have a situation where all these Bengal fans are talking smack. And look, they've had a great year. They beat my team to death. I'm not really talking smack so much about the team. I'm talking about the fans throwing a parade before the season's over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just isn't it going to be kind of funny if it comes down to the last game, Cleveland wins, and Cleveland goes to the playoffs and Cincinnati stays home again? Oops. Be careful, Bengal fans. I wouldn't get talking smack too soon. There's 3 weeks left. Anything can happen.
Look, Cleveland's back is against the ropes right now, but this isn't. Even if the Browns missed the playoffs, it's not because the Bengals were better. It's because the Bengals were healthier. It is not that hard to understand. That's like saying,
I don't think so either.
So if the Lakers, you're a Laker fan, they're one of the top. I know they're struggling, but more times than not, a LeBron-led team. LeBron leads a team as a number 1 seed into the playoffs. You lose LeBron James, you get eliminated from the playoffs. Why? The team that beat that LeBron-led team minus LeBron, that's not because they're better. It's because the star player was out. The star players for the Browns have been out week in and week out. It's not that hard to figure out. It's really not.
It's really not. But anyway, so yeah, that game yesterday was just completely. It was just sad, man. My team's not going anywhere. They're terrible. I don't know. Both games yesterday were just bad. They're hard to watch. So. Anyways, I just wanted to chime in. I don't know why Bengal fans are talking smack when they're up 1 game and there's 3 games left to play, and they still have to play Cleveland again. I don't know, man. They could be eating some crow. They could be eating some crow at the end of the year is all I'm saying. Be careful.
Look, Cincinnati's really good. In Baltimore and Cleveland, they're not very good right now because they're not healthy. Cincinnati, they're healthy and they're taking advantage of that opportunity. If that's the thing, if Burrow was bad, Burrow would crumble under this pressure. Burrow's actually done a lot better job of not turning the ball over the last couple of weeks. He's leading game-winning drives or potential game-winning drives. They're fine. At the end of the day, they're fine.
I've got a question though.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's offensive line still isn't very good. We're just 1 defensive lineman breakaway hit on Burrow to him being out again like he was last year.
Yeah, he's the most. And Jerry, I appreciate the comment. And Joe Burrow's the most sacked quarterback right now. I am not here to tell you that the Bengals are bad. It's turning into that, but they're not bad. I'm telling you that they're good. But you're not going to convince me that they are where they're at because they are better than the Browns. They are where they are at because the Browns and the Ravens have been decimated by injuries and COVID all year. That's it. I will keep saying it over and over. I don't care how many of you tune out because of that, because you don't want to hear the truth. I don't care how many of you get angry and try to convince yourself that, man, even if the Browns and Ravens were 100% healthy, we're better. You are not. You're only 1 game better than a decimated Browns and Ravens team. You're not even they should have wrapped this division up by now. There's no excuse. Let's go to Nick. Nick, how are you, sir?
Good. Happy holidays, sir.
You as well, I think. What are you about to do?
So I just want to talk to
you. See, I could tell in your tone like you're fired up. I could tell you've been waiting.
I'm not fired up by any means. You have to realize that at least Bengals fans, a lot of the ones that like to give you static. Justin, this team was expected by everybody out there to win 4 games this year. Okay, so right now it's house money. We've won 8 games. It's a whole different world to us because again, everybody told us we were only going to win 4 games this year. So all you're hearing from us is what we've heard from you the last 2 years as the Browns have continued to get better and win games.
But when I said that the Browns are better than the teams in the AFC North, it's because they were better than those teams in the AFC North. The Bengals are chirping, and they're acting as if they're not there because of injuries to other teams. Like if the Browns were completely healthy and the Ravens, they're not better than those teams. Even when the Browns were beat up, they still put 40+ and kicked the Bengals' ass about a month and a half ago. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that.
No question. But when the Ravens were hot, they just smoked the Chargers. They were the hottest thing. Cincinnati went in there and blew their doors off.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
They lost to the Jets.
But you're right. But to say, the Ravens were beat up and the Bengals, they were pretty hot and pretty, the talk of the town when Cincinnati went in there and blew the doors off, right? Mm-hmm. So it's one thing to talk about injury. You're right. All teams have gone through injuries. The Browns, on paper, were the best team in the North, period. And the reason of that is because of their depth, right? And now what we've seen is that depth isn't as good as I think a lot of people originally thought because they've had so many injuries. But is that a reason to say, that's the NFL, though. That's what we play the games for. So, again, that last week, it's going to come down to everything to that. But to sit there and just to take away from the fans that, hey, the Bengals are in first place right now, you're right. But again, we're house money. We're expected to win 4 ecstatic.
I don't know. And by the way, that's just out of pure just not trusting the Bengals organization. But I mean, my good T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow, a $200 million defense. Like everyone, but see, and maybe not you, Nick, but a lot of Bengals fans felt disrespected about that 4-game prediction from a lot of analysts out there coming into the year. And everyone said, that's so inaccurate. That is false. That is not true. We are good. We are this, we are that. And then now that you've surpassed that 4-win total, now you guys are accepting that 4-win prediction. Now everyone's like, well, keep in mind, you were only supposed to win 4 games. Well, no, you weren't only supposed, you were predicted to win 4 games because you weren't very good or thought, coming back from last year. So that's why that prediction was, but you guys were so offended by that. And now you embrace it. Now you love it. Now you love to remind people that it's weird.
It's to your point, right? But everybody said, oh, Trey Hendrickson, that's awful. You guys are stupid to let Carl, Lawson go. The guy from Dallas, oh, that's terrible. You let William Jackson go. Have you seen the 2 numbers this year? William Jackson is garbage this year.
No, and to be fair, Nick, I've admitted I was wrong. I didn't like the Hendrickson signing at the expense of losing Lawson. And again, I don't want to hear, oh, well, Lawson's out for the whole year anyways. The Bengals didn't know that. I still think that was a weird gamble. I would have loved to have Lawson and Hendrickson, but it doesn't matter because Hendrickson's been freaking lights out. So I was wrong on Hendrickson, and I was wrong on Awuzie. That guy's been better. I watched him in Dallas. He was garbage in Dallas. That's why I was shocked when everyone was bragging about him. I'm like, I've watched him. He's no good. He's been good. He's been very good. And Eli Apple, as bad as he has been, he made some ginormous plays this past weekend. He ticked me off, man. He ticked me off with how many good plays he made.
the Trey Flowers and Vernon Hargraves, the guys that they've picked up that have been cut, have made plays. So, it's one of those things. Again, you're getting the Bengals fans that know how to get under your skin, and they're doing it for that reason. A lot of us that are level-headed, hey, we understand where we're at, but we're also going to enjoy it.
Oh, and I said enjoy it, and I had no intentions of not letting you enjoy it. But when I'm just responding to takes in the chat section and callers, and then that's where I get labeled a hater. I'm like, so you want me to let you tell me things that aren't true about your team and just take it? And then if I respond, not to you, Nick, but to others, but no, it's not going to work that way. But no, look, that's the thing, though. Can you imagine, though? Like, let's say if the Steelers are the worst team in this division, if the Browns are completely healthy, the Ravens are healthy with this Bengals team, the AFC North is the best division in football, not even close. If the Bengals are the third best team in this division, that speaks volumes about how good this division is. But when they're the best team in the division because of the Ravens and Browns being down, it's because of that. But the Browns are still, they're a game out of first. The Ravens a game out of first. Somehow the Steelers are they're hanging around. I don't get it. But
It drives me nuts. And seeing that the Chiefs could be without players just makes me even sicker.
Oh, the football gods, man. Like I said, Browns-Bengals fans, we sound so stupid. We're all arguing amongst one another. Well, it's like a triple threat match. While we're beating each other up over here, the Steelers are just kind of leaning into the ropes like, I'll just let those morons get tire themselves out, and then I'll go get the pin. That's what's about to happen. That's honestly what's about to happen.
That's what I said when I was watching that game against the Titans. I'm like, are the Titans really just here to take the ball? Go ahead.
It's unbelievable. And that's the thing, too. And keep in mind, Nick, if they beat the Lions, like that tie is going to hurt them. But you imagine if they beat the Lions the way they're supposed to, it's a 3-way tie. You have 3 8-6 teams and a 7-7 Browns team. And honestly, if the Browns are healthy last night, they're also 8-6. This division is a tie with the Lions and a COVID depleted roster against the Raiders away from 4 8-6 teams in this division. Unreal.
That's crazy.
So, all right, man. Nick, is great hearing from you. Thanks for being a rational Bengals fan. You're giving me hope that they do exist.
Have a good one, bud.
Take care. 518-1410. We'll be back in just a moment. I don't know why that was a baseball music. There we go. We'll be back in a moment. It's the Justin Kinner Show.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mainly clear and sunny, a high near 46. Tonight's going to be mostly cloudy, a low near 26. And tomorrow will be partly cloudy, a high near 36. I'm Pete Spivak, 1410 ESPN Radio.
Come rain or shine, high winds or mild breezes, blue skies or gray. It's a great time to consider getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Start your holiday gift giving with Esther Price Candy's traditional gold boxes. Variety of holiday baskets, corporate trays, bourbon cherries, holiday gifts, and so much more. Don't leave home without your family favorites. Visit any of their 7 locations in Dayton and Cincinnati. Shop online at EstherPrice.com and ship your family and friends their favorites. Your holiday tradition is at Esther Price Candies.
The homemade goodness everyone likes. There's a whole lot sweeter with fine chocolates from Esther Price.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip-hop, or house, country, techno, or techno country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Give the gift of a Dayton tradition. Milano's Pizza Subs and Taps. Milano's gift cards are the perfect way to give good times and those favorite subs and pizza to family and friends. Right now, for each $25 Milano's gift card you buy, you'll get $5 more free.
What's all the buzz about nasal irrigation and Navage? And should I try it? Here's the science. Airborne germs invade through your nose. It's the body's air filter for trapping allergens and viruses. When your nose gets clogged, it's less effective and germs multiply. Eventually, your immune system can get overwhelmed and you get sick. Nasal irrigation is an effective, all-natural way to clean your nose. It's not a drug. It's more like plumbing. Saline goes in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and germs. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage to make cleaning your nose easy. It's the world's only nose cleaner with powered suction. Navage pulls out the bad stuff so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier. At Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Or go to Navage.com for a free gift with purchase. Over 2 million sold. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
At Lowe's Winterfest, finding the right gift can feel full-on festive. Explore the holiday happenings and save on drills, tools, and more.
Take home Frickers Holiday